Ebelstein rises before us, a city steeped in old-world charm. Within its walls dwells an aging mage, renowned for his pride. A first-rank mage, yes, but one who boasts of greatness to all. His temper flared with every exaggeration, a legend in his own mind. From the shadows, a young boy observes the strange old man. It was through him that this boy first discovered the secrets of magic. Yet their bond began with no grand purpose, no destined path. The old mage sought an ear, a student to absorb his endless tales, and the boy, in turn, craved the knowledge this world held hidden. Seasons turned, and time flowed as they continued their strange study. He diligently mastered the core principles, the foundation of all magic. Every day he pushed himself, striving to command the flow of mana. A doubt flickers in the old man's eyes. Does the boy truly understand? Suddenly, crimson flares to life within the boy's intense, focused gaze. He channels every ounce of his power, a spell forming within his grip. Brilliant blue energy explodes as the young mage demonstrates raw power. The blast shatters wood, a display of untamed force. Afterwards, the master seeks out his student for a private word. He recalls the boy's dedication, his relentless pursuit of mastery. In a single year, he ascended to the rank of a first-class mage. One evening, within the confines of their camp, the old man speaks. He reveals that Ebelstein's nobles reached the third rank with ease, and a commoner's bloodline, he claims, would never reach that height. The old man always said that in magic, bloodline was everything. Perhaps his words masked a frustration with his own limitations. That night, the boy watches his master slumber by the fading fire. Then, a torrential downpour descends, soaking the entire camp. Returning to the clearing, he finds his master fallen, lifeless on the ground. Bruises mark his body, evidence of a brutal, unseen struggle. He assumes the old man met with trouble, succumbing to a savage attack. Kneeling in the downpour, the man finally understands the heartbreaking truth. An old thief, caught attempting to steal a second-rank magic toe, met his end. City guards swiftly intervened, bringing a brutal close to the desperate act. The motive remains a mystery. Why would a man with no ambition risk everything? In that instant, the boy's master's forgotten words resurface in his mind. Then, unexpectedly, a glowing system interface flickers before his eyes. He wasn't born to this world, and that difference sparked a hidden power, 4 years ago. It was then he encountered Keisha Flameheart, a mage with a fiery spirit. A fallen noble, Keisha carried the weight of a ruined family legacy with her. She remained in Ebelstein, mentoring the boy as he joined a band of mercenaries. Through her guidance, the young man absorbed the knowledge of a seasoned mage. They find themselves one evening within the quiet walls of Belden's Tears Tavern. Keisha explains that a mage's drive to grow is natural, recognizing his raw talent. Yet she cautions him, uncontrolled ambition will only push true strength further away. The boy nods, quietly resolving to heed her measured advice. She prompts him to close his eyes, to sense the man standing near. He focuses inward, feeling for mana, visualizing the form he desires. A brilliant blue aura flares around him as he falls into deep focus. The woman observes, vast reserves of mana, and astonishingly firm control. His eyes ignite with violet light, a surge of raw power unleashed. His master recoils, shocked by the boy's escalating, wild energy. A deafening boom rips through the tavern, jolting everyone within. Whispers of fear ripple through the crowd. What caused that sound? The young mage stares at his hands, bewildered by his own outburst. His master firmly grips his hand, attempting to soothe his rising panic. She motions for him to follow, commanding silence with a single look. Outside, mercenaries scramble, searching for the explosion's origin. They slip away through a shadowed alley, desperate to remain unseen. Lost, the boy finally asks his master, "What is going on now?" Turning to him, the woman urges her apprentice to hear her words. He nods, anticipating the explanation about to unfold. She clarifies that nobility fiercely guards its advantages, and magic represents the ultimate power. For the privileged, innate talent is a birthright, but for commoners, it's a struggle. The power he displayed exceeded all expectations for someone of his humble origins. His mentor explains he unleashed a second-rank illusion, a feat of incredible skill. And so, at 14, he ascended to the rank of second-class mage. Afterward, Keisha guided him through the intricacies of magic and noble customs. A year later, she bids farewell, summoned by a new opportunity elsewhere. She'd accepted a position as a private tutor for the influential Count Elvester family. It was an offer too valuable for a fallen noble like her to dismiss. Securing a role as a magic instructor offered a crucial lifeline of stability. As a parting gift, she bestowed upon him a second-rank spellbook. Another year dissolves as the boy throws himself wholeheartedly into his training. Within that time, he successfully mastered 2 additional second-rank spells. At 16, he stands already as a remarkably gifted and powerful mage. He vows his daughter's growth will not be the last of it. The commander asks what job finally brought this noble here. The reply comes swiftly, a request from the Duchy of Deduplain. A flicker of doubt crosses the commander's face. Why them? His boss dismisses concern. The ducal house spends lavishly. This is an opening, he insists, a path to noble favor. Derrick presses for details. What does the mission actually entail? The answer is dismissive, merely clearing out a few monsters. Something feels wrong to Derrick. A duchy doesn't hire mercenaries for this. He rises abruptly, outright refusing to take the commission. He states firmly he won't accept work shrouded in secrecy. His boss explodes, desperate for a mage. They're incredibly rare. Derrick scoffs. A mage is hardly needed for simple monster slaying. He clenches his fist, determined to avoid a needless conflict. A single gold coin is slammed on the table, an enticing advance. The coin spins in his grasp, and a new thought crosses his mind. Soon after, he faces his clients, a nobleman sporting a gleaming monocle. Beside him stands a lady, radiating kindness and gentle grace, and lurking nearby, a cloaked figure obscures her face in shadow. The tavern owner urges him to acknowledge them, but he stubbornly resists. The nobleman bristles, outraged they sent a child for such work. The owner defends his mage, insisting he's the best he's ever seen. Yet the old man remains firm. This is no task for a boy. He leans in, whispering a quiet order to the woman at his side. Disappointed, the trio of clients turn to depart the bustling tavern, but the hooded figure stops, calling out to him, requesting a moment. Their journey begins, leading them toward the vast Grand Duchy of Duplain. During a routine job, raw magic erupts as he strikes down a goblin. Crimson energy flares in his eyes, intensifying the heat of battle. A blur of steel, and his blade cleaves the creature cleanly in two. A final goblin lunges, clutching a rusty dagger in its grip. The beast surges forward, glowing eyes fixed on a fatal strike, but he effortlessly seizes its throat, ending the threat instantly. Now, a surging wave of enraged goblins descends upon him. The young man pivots, informing the nobleman his task is complete. The elder and his retinue observe the battlefield, utterly impressed. A cloaked figure whispers that he dispatched them with stunning speed. Back at the tavern, the barkeep questions him about the mission's outcome. A blonde mercenary vaults onto a table, erupting in furious accusations. Her boss sharply reprimands her, yet she persists, railing against servitude. She demands to know how much he was paid to abandon his honor. The barkeep reveals the reward, a single silver coin per goblin slain. He watches with a knowing smirk, anticipating her disbelief. Her jaw drops, eyes gleaming with avarice at the paltry sum. She immediately begs for a chance to serve the noble, any way possible. Night descends, and the boss presses the boy for details on the hunt. A drunken mercenary slumps across the table, utterly unconscious now. He recounts felling goblins, noting the clients carried fortunes unseen. But a startling truth emerges. Their noble facade was a blatant lie. His boss recoils, demanding to know if he could truly be certain. The young man explains the elder lacked the bearing of any true lord, and the woman posing as a servant bore hands untouched by honest work. Before he can speak of the woman, his boss cuts him off abruptly. Red eyes lock onto his, and the boy falls into a tense, quiet stillness. The man insists mercenaries exist to complete tasks, nothing more. He concedes the point, yet unease still clings to the boy's expression. His boss declares that in this world, only survival holds any value. The following dawn finds them traveling once more into Duplain. He assures them the goblin threat won't resurface for many months. The boss then coldly requests the remainder of their promised fee. 2 gold coins clink into his palm, a generous reward. His boss perks up, eager, but the boy requests a private word. The elder clears his throat, preparing to address the young mage. He speaks of recognizing talent, offering a new, vital commission. Confusion creases his boss's brow. The offer is unexpected. 15 gold coins are proposed for the dangers that lie ahead. He pauses, a challenging gaze meeting the boy's, awaiting his choice. A curt nod confirms acceptance. The mage will take the new job. A carriage carries them forward, toward a distant, unknown destination. They arrive at the imposing gates of the Grand Duchy of Duplain. The mercenary stares, awestruck by the ducal mansion's grandeur. Before they enter, the nobleman insists on a proper introduction. He reveals his name, Melron, chief administrator of the estate. The mercenary's jaw tightens, stunned by the revelation of his rank. A gentle voice then introduces Katerina, head housekeeper of Duplain. A curt bow follows, the boss offering apologies for his initial oversight. He now understands their standing eclipses his previous assumptions entirely. The veiled woman advances, finally relinquishing her shadowed disguise. Recognition dawns on the boss, a stunned realization of her true identity. Slowly, she lowers her hood, her face emerging from the concealing darkness. Raven hair cascades down her back, stirring with a gentle current. He observes her intently, anticipating the unveiling of her hidden self. "I'm Iseline," she announces, eldest daughter of the renowned Duplain family. Confusion clouds his mind. She seeks him specifically as a private tutor? An invitation arrives, beckoning them toward the sprawling Duplain mansion. Massive doors swing inward, revealing lavish chambers within the estate. A young nobleman strides into the room, voicing complaints to his stern father. The Duke demands his son display some composure before his very eyes. The son says he is not the one who needs dignity, but Diella is the one who needs dignity. He bitterly accuses her of overstepping boundaries, attacking the household staff. A second brother demands his sibling control his rising temper. The younger man insists she smashes furniture with unrestrained abandon. He questions his father how much longer this chaos will endure. The blonde brother's voice booms, demanding his attention once more. He declares the discussion closed, demanding immediate silence now. The young man bristles, falling quiet but clearly still seething. He counters that even if Diallo is beyond saving, A's lineage remains. He believes letting her go is best for everyone involved now. The Duke intervenes, asserting he alone decides his sister's future. His son coldly reveals he's already dispatched a butler to find contents. The Duke erupts, seizing his son's hair in a furious grip. He slams his son's head against the polished wood with brutal force. He repeats, his voice a growl, that this choice is not his son's. The young man, slumped and bleeding, murmurs a reckoning will come. The Duke's gaze descends, a chilling wave of icy contempt. The weighty coin lingers as A and the boy enter the Duke's chambers. She delicately asks if he's ever heard mention of her sister, Dialla. He confirms the name, noting the girl rarely appears in public view. Suddenly, the chamber doors swing wide, commanding the room's attention. Azaleen greets her brother with a soft smile, warmth in her expression. He mirrors the smile, inquiring about her time spent in distant Ebelstein. She answers it was peaceful, extending gratitude for his lingering care. He gently adjusts his brother's hair, promising a private conversation soon. The boy watches, sensing a subtle tension thickening the opulent air. The two brothers withdraw, leaving Azaleen alone with the watchful Duke. He remains impassive, his gaze sharp as he dissects their exchange. He notes a weeping maid, comforted by Azaleen's gentle hand. His face remains a mask, betraying no hint of his thoughts. The Duke expresses his relief at her thriving life in Ebelstein. Azaleen offers thanks, then presents the boy as Diala's new instructor. The Duke studies him, a calculating gaze sweeping over the boy. A's voice bids farewell to her father, then summons the mage to follow close. The nobleman requests the boy linger, demanding a private audience now. He pivots, bewildered by the unexpected turn, searching for answers. Sunlight streams through the grand window, bathing the room in warm light. The Duke scribbles his signature, continuing the discussion intently. He doubts this boy's age, pressing for confirmation of being just 16. The boy confirms, unwavering before the Duke's intense scrutiny. The nobleman probes further, questioning the scope of his magical ability. The Duke's smile twists with skepticism as he adjusts his monocle. He insists on honesty, declaring humility a weakness in a powerful mage. The young man remains impassive, a stone mask concealing his thoughts. A wave of cerulean energy erupts, the Duke's aura filling the chamber. He bows low, offering a carefully worded apology for any disrespect shown. The nobleman concedes, admitting raw talent can sometimes overshadow grace. He cuts him off, declaring himself a professional mercenary. The Duke relents, conceding his decision rests with Ace line alone. A maid is offered as a guide, prompting the boy to voice a query. The nobleman dismisses him with a glance, granting brief permission. He insists a mercenary always fulfills a contracted obligation. Eilein's task, he reveals, was to impart magical knowledge to Diala. The Duke's gaze intensifies, puzzled by this blatant statement. The young man humbly requests an audience with the Duke himself. Silence hangs heavy as the Duke studies him, unsettled by his boldness. A porcelain plate suddenly launches across the opulent hall. It explodes against the wall, sending dangerous shards toward him. The girl shrinks back, a torrent of apologies escaping her lips. A veiled figure screams, ordering the maid to vanish immediately. His eyes land on a delicate, steaming cup resting on a table. He recalls questioning Eileen about the reason for his selection. She reveals that even the most renowned instructors abandoned Dayla's training. His employer insists a mercenary still understands noble decorum and bearing. Eileen offers a smile, claiming he struck her as genuinely refined. The boss scoffs, warning her she's naive about the true nature of men. He explains that this young mage clawed his way up from the city's depths. Eileen reels, stunned by the revelation of the boy's harsh beginnings. The mage proceeds onward, trailed by a quietly observant young maid. He halts before a massive oak door set deep within the manor's hall. The boy lifts his hand, pausing a beat before pushing the door open. He raps twice on the wood, formally announcing his presence within. Silence descends as the young man waits, but no one answers his call. The boy then twists the ornate knob, swinging the heavy door inward. He steps into the chamber, offering a polished greeting to the girl. He formally introduces himself to the blonde as Derrick, the mage. She motions for him to approach, finally identifying herself as Diala. Derrick steps forward, cautiously approaching his new charge. A cruel smirk twists across Diala's haughty features. Without warning, a splash of liquid hits Derrick squarely. Water cascades down his face and hair, yet he doesn't flinch. Diala's smile widens, her voice dripping with mockery. She sneers, calling him the sewer rat the butler described. A nearby maid clenches her hands, her knuckles turning white. Diala leaps onto a polished table, reveling in her dominance. Another cascade of water drenches him, a deliberate insult. He stands motionless, water clinging to his jawline. Diala laughs, declaring the bucket completely empty now. The young mage remains rigidly still, his expression icy. Her eyes widen in shock at his unsettling composure. She lashes out with a kick, but he effortlessly intercepts it. Derrick releases her leg, lowering himself into a ready stance. A furious flush rises on Diala's face as she slams a fist on the chair. She pinches her nose, dismissing him with a scoff about his scent. Diala deliberately presses her heel onto his shoulder, a blatant display. Leaning forward, she asserts her dominance with a cruel smirk. She flaunts a bare foot, coldly reminding him of their vast difference. The scene shifts, revealing a study overflowing with ancient tomes. The Duke stands silhouetted, gazing out a grand window in contemplation. His expression remains stern, lost in the weight of his decisions. He addresses the mage, outlining the delicate nature of this request. Derrick listens intently, his gaze unwavering as the Duke speaks on. The nobleman then probes, gauging the extent of authority required. A sharp crack echoes as a stinging slap connects with Diala's cheek. The blonde girl collapses, utterly stunned by the mage's swift response. Derrick's gaze descends upon her, chillingly devoid of all emotion. Her hand flies to her burning face, disbelief etched across her features. He commands her to rise, demanding immediate obedience from the girl. A memory surfaces. 3 years prior, the boy journeys by carriage. He queries his mentor, seeking guidance on handling defiant pupils. She responds with a gentle smile, offering understanding and firm direction. The young man finds her response naive, challenging the wisdom of her approach. She counters that force becomes necessary when words prove ineffective. His master's expression darkens, advocating for the power of intimidation. Now, the girl remains frozen, utterly stunned by the sudden display. He delivers a stark warning, his voice cold as he demands she stand now. Diala's fists clench against the floor, simmering with mounting fury. She surges upward, lashing out with a desperate punch aimed at his face. A furious scream escapes her lips, questioning his audacity and worth. He responds instantly, another stinging slap connecting with her cheek. The mage's eyes remain unwavering, a cold warning for proper respect. Hatred flares in her gaze, a burning desire for his complete destruction. She shrieks for the guards, her voice echoing through the manor halls. The aged butler races into the room, a whirlwind of panicked motion. The blonde brother storms in, seizing the young mage by both shoulders. But the mercenary stays composed, presenting a tightly rolled decree. He reveals the Duke himself authorized his role in her training. The butler adjusts his monocle, stunned as he scans the official document. The blonde girl witnesses the reaction, realizing she's utterly alone. Moonlight spills across the vast mansion, bathing the stone in silver. The dark-haired brother attempts to soothe her, gently holding her arm. She fights against him, demanding to know if he truly is the mage. The young mage remains seated, a book resting in his steady hands. She lunges to strike him, but her brother restrains her with firm control. He simply states that the Duke sanctioned every single arrangement. The brother reminds her he's a guest, invited by their sister Diala. The blonde noble finally relents, gesturing for the mage to follow him. The Duke attempts to soothe the tension, briefly touching the mage's shoulder and promising his safety. The silver-haired boy acknowledges the assurance with a subtle turn of his head, barely a movement. The nobleman strides further into the hall, the mercenary trailing behind as his brother remains watchful. A shadowed scene shifts to a young girl clutching a doll, her expression unnervingly serene. The two men reach imposing double doors, pushing them open to reveal a long-forgotten chamber. The blonde explains this was once his sister's room, now left untouched and shrouded in silence. The mage moves toward a massive canvas, his gaze drawn to a vibrant, unfinished landscape. Recalling the past, his brother remembers her fondness for art, the bright joy in her youthful displays. Yet, the nobleman adds, she never completed a single painting, always leaving large portions blank. The mercenary offers a quiet apology for his earlier outbursts, quickly dismissed by the Duke's wave. The boy studies stacked canvases on the floor, questioning the reason he's been led to this room. With a heavy heart, the blonde reveals his sister was once kind, before obsession with lineage consumed her. The mage absorbs every word as the older brother expresses confusion over her drastic transformation. The silver-haired boy runs a hand across aged books, learning they must stop her from entering a monastery. The Duke grips the mercenary's shoulders, desperation flooding his voice as he pleads for his sister's rescue. He pauses, hand raised, briefly collecting his thoughts as he assesses the unfolding circumstances. His fingers trace the cover of a worn notebook, filled with meticulous notes, revealing dedication to the arcane arts. These are texts on magical theory, he deduces, the Duke concurring with a knowing nod and a subtle smile. A steely resolve hardens his expression, the mercenary formulating a precise strategy within his sharp mind. The camera lingers on an ornate landscape painting, depicting a vibrant forest bathed in emerald light. With a decisive snap, the boy closes the notebook, committing to a course of action that will change everything. He turns to the Duke, book in hand, and declares with unwavering certainty his commitment to aiding the girl. Darkness descends as the scene shifts to the vast manor, illuminated only by the ethereal glow of the moon. The young noble sleeps soundly in her lavish bed, unaware of the trials that still await her in the darkness. A frigid shock jolts her awake as a bucket of ice water crashes down, soaking her bed and her delicate frame. A scream tears from her throat as the icy water engulfs her, a desperate cry against the sudden, cruel awakening. The mage stands cloaked in shadow, bucket in hand, scoffing at her naive attempt to rest amidst looming danger. Shivering and soaked, she glares at the mercenary with burning fury, convinced he's spiraled into madness. He seizes her arm, a harsh command escaping his lips. They must leave now, as she struggles against his grip. He drags the protesting noble through the manor's endless halls, past stunned maids frozen in disbelief. A full moon reigns over the landscape, casting long shadows across the sprawling estate grounds. The pair strides forward, quickly distancing themselves from the imposing manor and its secrets. She stumbles, her small form collapsing onto the forest floor, and he pauses, observing her sudden fall. Her gaze rises, burning with venom as she demands to know his audacity, this commoner's arrogance. Ignoring her fury, he warns that her cries will be lost to the wilderness, then hints at a hidden truth. A chilling smile spreads across his face, revealing he has no interest in instruction, only retribution. Her eyes widen in stark terror as his dark words sink in, a cold dread seizing her entire being. He gestures with measured calm, admitting his tutoring offer was a carefully constructed deception. He leans closer, his expression predatory, intent on shattering the remnants of her haughty pride. The glint of steel flashes as he draws his blade, relishing the imagined sound of a noble's despair. She scrambles backwards, utterly panicked, demanding to know if he believes he can act with impunity. His sword sings as it clears the scabbard, a cruel smile twisting his lips, silencing any hope of rescue. He presses his psychological attack, declaring his own life expendable in the act of her destruction. His distorted reflection dances on the polished steel, suggesting her family desires her removal. Instinct takes over, and the blonde girl spins, abandoning all pretense and fleeing into the darkness. She sprints across the grounds, realizing the mansion is unreachable across the open field. Risking everything, the girl plunges into the dense forest, attempting to evade the mercenary. She vaults over a fallen log with practiced ease, leveraging her local knowledge for a plan. But her escape is cut short by a blinding orange glow erupting along the path ahead. A massive fireball blazes into existence, extinguishing any hope of the girl's getaway. The silver-haired boy conjures the inferno, illuminating the dark forest with its power. Terrified, the blonde girl stares at the fiery barrier blocking her every move. She questions how a commoner wields a second-level spell of such immense scale. The mercenary's chilling smile reveals his delight in her growing despair and panic. Without hesitation, the young man unleashes the colossal flame towards the frightened girl. The noble's eyes reflect the deadly blaze, and she freezes, sensing impending doom. Driven by desperation, the young woman throws herself to the earth, releasing a piercing scream. The magic detonates with brutal force, sending a shockwave that hurls her backwards. Gasping for air, the blonde girl glances back, barely believing she lived through it. The mage's eyes blaze crimson as he mocks her survival with a cruel, dismissive scowl. The forest night tightens around her, amplifying the fugitive's desperate flight. Driven by pure instinct, the noble girl charges deeper into the woods, fighting for survival. Exhaustion claws at her lungs, but she risks a glance back, dreading the hunter's approach. She leverages every ounce of agility to vault a massive fallen log blocking the winding path. A strangled gasp escapes her lips as fatigue overwhelms her, sending her crashing to the earth. Pain radiates through her limbs, yet she desperately claws for strength to continue her escape. Suddenly, a streak of blue energy slices through the air, a magical arrow seeking its target. The ethereal glow illuminates her horrified face, a portrait of paralyzing, sudden fear. She narrowly twists aside, watching the deadly arrows bury themselves deep into the forest floor. The girl stares at the embedded magic, realizing how close she came to a swift, brutal end. The silver-haired boy emerges, calmly summoning more arrows, and mockingly commends her luck. He finds it unbelievable she's spent her life confined within the mansion's lavish walls. Ignoring his cruel words, the noble girl spins and flees, plunging back into the dark forest. A cynical smile plays on the mercenary's lips, savoring the desperate struggle of his prey. As she races onward, doubt creeps in. Will she truly escape, or is capture inevitable? She grits her teeth, desperately searching for a way to outsmart the relentless mage. But the silver-haired boy drops to his knees, weaving a tracking spell into the muddy ground. He rises, his gaze fixed on a narrow path winding through the dense, shadowed trees. The boy recalls details from her painting, realizing the girl knows this forest intimately. He understands she channeled the forest's energy onto the canvas with an innate, natural gift. The mage's crimson eyes narrow, intrigued by the fugitive's unexpectedly hidden talent. Abruptly, the girl leaps from the branches, clutching a rock to crush his skull. But with terrifying speed, the young warrior unsheathes his blade in a blurring arc. He deflects the stone mid-flight, then delivers a crushing blow, sending the blonde girl sprawling. Frozen with terror, the girl stares up at the overwhelming skill of her relentless hunter. The mercenary approaches, surprisingly praising her desperate attempt at a counterattack. She shudders violently, gasping for breath and clutching her dress in rising panic. With an icy stare, the silver-haired boy observes that the prey has nothing left to escape with. The warrior levels his magic blade at the blonde girl's face, demanding her final words. But to his shock, a faint smile touches her lips, followed by a hollow, ironic laugh. She declares she won't beg for mercy, challenging him to finish it, her pride unwavering. His expression shifts, and he asks with genuine curiosity why she clings so fiercely to noble birth. The question strikes a nerve, causing her shoulders to slump in visible defeat. Tears welling, she confesses that without her status, she believes her life holds no meaning at all. She slams a fist into the earth, a desperate cry escaping her lips. She craved the power of magic. The girl releases her anguish, shouting that she poured everything into mastering those spells. The mercenary stands in silence, his face obscured by shadows as he absorbs her painful words. She sobs in the mud, tormented by her perceived failure, convinced she'll never measure up. Through her tears, she reveals that her lineage was the only thing shielding her from utter ruin. Lost and broken, she laments her worth, desperately questioning what remains if not her title. The young mage offers no retort, merely absorbing the weight of her desperate confession. But then, a brilliant blue energy crackles to life along the blade of his sword. Hot tears track down her cheeks, a grim acceptance settling over her features. He raises the glowing weapon high above her, stating coldly that he's heard all he needs to. A final, despairing cry escapes her lips as the mage delivers a chilling farewell. A flash of blue descends, the sword aimed with lethal precision. She braces for impact, squeezing her eyes shut against the coming strike. But the agony never arrives, replaced by the shattering sound of freezing ice. The blade slams into the earth, birthing colossal, jagged crystals. Lifting her gaze, she finds herself encircled by a shimmering, icy cage. The mercenary has woven an ice prison, holding her without inflicting harm. Her hands begin to glow, and a desperate question forms in her mind. He returns his blue blade to its sheath with quiet composure. Bowing slightly, he commends her performance, feigning regret for his harshness. Still reeling, the noble girl struggles to comprehend this bizarre turn. The mage offers a reassuring smile, claiming it was a simple manifestation. A choked sob escapes her lips, quickly escalating into unrestrained tears. Finally, overwhelmed with relief, she collapses into a flood of joyous weeping. The mercenary stands silent, observing the girl's emotional release within the ice. Above, the full moon casts a silver glow on the darkened, hushed forest. He notes her origins lie with the untamed schools, leaving the noble girl baffled. He insists every academy shares a core foundation, but each student's path to power unfolds uniquely. She demands how he discerned her wild school upbringing. The mage explains her paintings revealed a natural gift. He clarifies she channeled nature's raw energy within them, transferring immense power directly onto every canvas. The noble's eyes widen, stunned by this unexpected insight. He concedes she's awakened magic, but lacks refinement. He declares he'll guide her towards natural manifestation tomorrow. A hush, Derrick, escapes her lips, a newfound softness. She shyly crosses her arms, offering quiet gratitude. The mercenary falls silent, unsure how to process this. He then asks if they can depart, and she agrees to follow. He commends her sunset painting, declaring it skillfully done. Sunlight streams through the window, flooding the opulent chamber. The following morning finds the noble girl revitalized in her bed. She extends a hand, and a faint blue aura flickers to life. Intense focus sharpens her gaze as she studies the nascent energy. But the fledgling magic sputters, revealing the challenge ahead. A maid trudges down the hall, burdened by a laundry-filled basket. Abruptly, the noble bursts from her room, startling the servant. With a flick of her wrist, she launches the bucket's water skyward. Yet control slips, and the deluge crashes back down upon herself. The maid's eyes widen in fear, bracing for inevitable reprimand. A stern expression settles on the noble's face, heightening the tension. The servant collapses, pleading for mercy on the polished floor, but the young woman simply instructs her to exercise more caution. Confusion clouds the maid's face, baffled by the unexpected leniency. Whispers ripple through the staff, as they note the girl's shift. He rests soundly within the mansion's lavish embrace, but a frantic pounding shatters the silence, jolting him awake. Rubbing sleep from his eyes, he wonders what chaos has erupted. She demands immediate instruction, wanting control over her surging powers. The butler stares in disbelief, stunned by her sudden magical display. The noble reminds him of his vow, impatiently ordering him to begin now. He calmly suggests postponing the lesson until the afternoon's light. The butler witnesses a chilling shift as a smug grin spreads across her face. She explodes in a furious outburst, pounding the door, demanding entry. Her voice echoes with entitlement, relentlessly demanding her lesson immediately. Sunlight floods the grand mansion, revealing its imposing scale. A man strides through the halls, his footsteps resolute and purposeful. Two maids whisper, surprised the young noble hasn't caused any mishaps. The elder brother overhears their chatter about the girl's unleashed magic. He freezes mid-stride, a profound shock rippling through his composure. He pivots, requesting the maids to recount every whispered rumor. The Duke remains secluded, meticulously drafting a letter with a quill. The siblings inform their father of the noble girl's sudden magical awakening. News of her power brings visible relief to the Duke's stern expression. Yet, the elder brother cautions against premature celebrations and praise. The blonde son explodes in anger, demanding his brother acknowledge her talent. The Duke calmly adjusts his spectacles, a silent observer of the brewing conflict. The darker-haired brother recalls the chaos the younger one regularly provoked. The nobleman listens intently, a quiet presence amidst his son's debate. The view shifts upward, revealing a vibrant sky dotted with drifting clouds. The little noble sulks on her bed, knees drawn up, a picture of discontent. Derrick approaches cautiously, questioning the source of her evident distress. She sharply averts her gaze, denying anger but revealing deep frustration. He counters that childish petulance won't alter her present circumstances. The young woman vehemently insists she isn't pouting, he's entirely wrong. She declares that every power has its place, and her anger is hers to feel. The noble girl erupts, vehemently insisting she's furious with her instructor. The mercenary remains impassive, his face a mask of stoic silence. Defeated, she concedes, deciding to feign childish pouting for the moment. The silver-haired instructor settles into a chair, preparing for the lesson. He cautions her against recklessness, speaking from years of hard experience. The girl rises, muttering that the tedious magic teacher has finally arrived. He adopts a menacing expression, asking if she'd prefer a more engaging approach. The noble girl recalls the previous night's events, suddenly gripped by fear. Instantly, she sinks back down, agreeing to proceed with a normal lesson. The instructor explains they'll be focusing on manifesting raw magical energy. He describes Wild School as a haven for independent learning and freedom. The mage observes that she's uniquely suited for Wild School, leaving her puzzled. He elaborates that her spirit aligns perfectly with the school's ideals. She is gifted. The single word, gifted, reverberates within the little noble's thoughts. A flush creeps across her face as she wonders if talent is truly hers. He affirms it, and she eagerly asks if this makes her a prodigious genius. He clarifies that raw talent and true genius exist on different planes. From the courtyard, her brother observes the lesson, questioning its outcome. The Duke's face remains a stony mask, betraying his deep dissatisfaction. Dawn breaks, bathing the sprawling estate in the golden morning light. Bursting into his study, she confesses her inability to command the magic. Another morning finds her disrupting his breakfast with a chilling, icy presence. Days later, she relentlessly pursues him, describing the magic's unsettling feel. Finally, she discovers him lost in a book beneath the shade of a sprawling tree. She sharply rebukes him for abandoning his studies and demands to know about the tome. He calmly explains the book was entrusted to him for dedicated research. Exasperated, she dismisses the tutor and orders him to witness her unleashed power. Within a grand chamber, the blonde brother gazes out the window, lost in thought. Abruptly, the massive door swings inward, heralding an unexpected arrival. Sunlight spills across the room as the silver-haired boy is welcomed to speak. Settling for tea, the blonde brother inquires about his sister's recent progress. The mercenary confirms advancement, admitting true mastery remains distant. A warning hangs in the air. Their mother's return looms next week. He explains the nobility frowns upon commoners wielding real power. The boy acknowledges the caution, then asks if that ends the discussion. Silence descends as the blonde man gathers his thoughts to continue. He states, as future head of the family, absolute honesty is essential now. The nobleman muses on the elusive nature of truly knowing another's soul, but the young mage interrupts, demanding he cut to the chase immediately. A clenched fist rises, revealing the depth of his burning frustration. He voices a complaint. His sister has abandoned him for her new tutor. The mercenary's eyes glaze over, reflecting utter boredom and apathy. The nobleman fondly remembers a time when she called him her angel. He pleads with the boy to help him recapture his sister's affection. With a cry, she calls out the mercenary's name, validating her brother's claim. He swiftly changes the topic, presenting a strange creation learned from a servant. He holds up a peculiar rag doll, questioning if his sister will approve of it. The mage narrows her eyes at the doll, wondering if their father intends a curse. He laments, declaring the mercenary utterly inept for this delicate task. The scene shifts, showcasing the imposing facade of their sprawling mansion once more. The young man is met by an elderly woman, who confesses she's heard of his renown. She explains they've found a remarkably gifted magic instructor for her family. Introducing herself as Mirella, she requests his presence as a boon to her household. He replies tersely that he isn't tied to any noble lineage or obligation. Mirella is visibly perplexed by the mage's surprisingly blunt and stark answer. The mercenary then reveals, with a wry smile, that he's a common-born man. Mirella reels, utterly astonished by the boy's unexpected background. The narrative returns to a lavish mansion, clearly belonging to a powerful family. Within its walls, a boy with silver hair is greeted by an older woman awaiting his arrival. Sunlight bathes the room as she announces a magic tutor has been secured, a truly gifted instructor. Introducing herself as Mariella, the woman graciously offers gifts to the bewildered boy. He instantly corrects her, stating he belongs to no noble family or established house. Confusion flickers across Mariella's face as she urges him to clarify his strange claim. Revealing crimson eyes, the young man confesses a startling truth: he's merely a commoner. Mariella reels in disbelief, the revelation of his origins shattering her expectations. The narrative flashes back 1 week, landing before the imposing gates of the grand estate. A girl praises Derrick's decision to bring him here, a hopeful expression on her face. She announces her departure, entrusting her younger sister to the tutor's capable hands. The white-haired man acknowledges her words, his gaze intense with unspoken purpose. A hulking figure embraces him, playfully urging him to display a bit more enthusiasm. They bid farewell to the departing carriage, tasking him with completing his work swiftly. Standing alone, the boy fixates on the immense mansion as the carriage disappears down the drive. Abruptly, the girl's eyes widen. A crucial detail slips back into her memory. She urgently warns that her mother will return next week. A forgotten announcement hangs in the air. He questions why such a request requires prior notification at all. A subtle mention of her mother instantly reshapes the girl's entire expression. She paints a portrait of her mother as a whirlwind of chaotic intensity. Now, Mariella's voice echoes with frustration as she confronts her husband in the office. He requests, with composure, that she modulate her voice during their discussion. Undeterred, she continues, declaring their youngest daughter, Dilla, is the core issue. He counters that employing commoners isn't a prospect he welcomes either. He recalls how previous tutors, burdened by noble expectations, abandoned the girl. He points out securing a capable instructor is difficult, crediting Iceland with the recommendation. Yet, she firmly believes certain baseline credentials are non-negotiable for the position. She suggests her brother, Flam, would be a more suitable educator than a commoner. He asks if she truly intends to reassign a general to the role of a simple tutor. She snaps back, insisting their social standing is a constant, intricate battle. A tutor, she argues, functions as a symbol. A commoner would bring the family shame. Suddenly, the office door bursts open, the sound cutting through their heated debate. Sunlight pours into the room as a young man pleads for peace between his parents. Mariella sharply tells Valerian to stay silent. This discussion is far too important. Suddenly, another brother arrives, identifying the core issue, the new teacher's credentials. Their mother beams at him, proudly calling him Rig, a smile lighting her face. Rig states a commoner as an instructor is unusual, yet not inherently a crisis. He proposes personally assessing Derrick's abilities, determining if he's truly skilled. The Duke immediately intervenes, asserting the young man is a remarkably powerful mage. The noble son fixes his father with a steely gaze, carefully considering his next move. He suggests shifting focus, testing Dyla, the student, instead of the teacher himself. His blonde brother reels, completely lost by this unexpected line of reasoning. Reed clarifies, a truly exceptional teacher will produce an equally gifted student. The Duke remains impassive, listening intently to his son's plan, saying nothing. The young noble departs, resolute in executing his plan to test his younger sister. Valerian follows, questioning why he's demanding a magical duel with Dyla. He presses, wondering if his brother truly believes Dyla has genuinely changed. He declares she's their soul sister, and their protection is an unbreakable vow. Rag scoffs at the mention of blood, a cruel smirk twisting his features. He warns this bloodline will shatter the family, her debt sealing their doom. The blonde son fixes his brother with a stern gaze, questioning his true feelings. Rig insists Dyla has forfeited all rights, demanding eternal confinement. His elder brother offers only silence, a weight of judgment in his stare. With resolve hardening his features, the dark-haired boy storms from the room. Above, a lone bird observes the vast estate, a silent, feathered witness. Suddenly, the young noble crashes into the tutor's chamber, calling his name. Lost in his book, he asks what urgency drives her frantic arrival this morning. She slams a scroll into his desk, an official decree for an upcoming duel. She warns a loss will mean his immediate dismissal, his position forfeit. The tutor concedes Rage is a formidable one-star mage, a difficult opponent. Furious, she demands he offer more than bleak assessments of her peril. He clarifies he's a mercenary, focused solely on completing his contracted task. He states calmly that his fee has been generously met, exceeding the service's worth. Stunned, the young noble demands to know if the tutor is truly speaking honestly. A week unfolds, A massive eagle emblazoned on a flag whips in the powerful wind. A vast crowd assembles within the arena's walls, anticipating the impending clash. The family patriarch arrives with his wife and a retinue of influential nobles. He locates the white-haired tutor, announcing with a flourish that he's revealed himself. The boy offers a deeply respectful bow before the family's leader, standing before him. The elder noble observes the young man's composure, noting a complete lack of fear. Seated in his box, he assesses the boy, recognizing a dangerous potential within. Echoing through the arena, determined footsteps announce an approaching combatant. With a billowing cape, the girl's brother strides confidently towards the arena's center. He believes this duel transcends simple challenge, demanding Diala's utter defeat. Ascending the steps, the noble vows to make his sister pay for past transgressions. Her boots striking the stone, the young blonde girl advances to meet her brother's challenge. A red HUD illuminates her vision, stealing her gaze for the imminent confrontation. She questions if the tutor truly accepts the risk of losing his position for her. He calmly points out her mana steadily grows, hinting at one-star magic on the horizon. The tutor reveals she carries the Duplin bloodline, explaining the source of her rare power. He clarifies his academy prioritizes independent learning over traditional instruction. Voice cracking, she demands to know why he concealed this vital information until now. The white-haired master offers only a silent gaze, his expression unreadable and distant. Head lowered, she confesses her struggles, admitting she's a difficult and slow learner. Sobbing, she pleads to continue her lessons with him, refusing any other instructor. Standing with his back to her, the tutor listens to her raw, desperate plea unfold. Adjusting his gloves, he admits ignorance of noble duel etiquette in this territory. A wry smile touches his lips as he offers to teach her victory, asking if she's willing. A flashback shows murmurs claiming she was born without a single trace of mana. The voices rise in mockery, labeling her a shameful disgrace to her noble lineage. With defiant tears and simmering rage, she declares her unwavering determination to win. Now, in the arena's harsh light, she steps forward defined only by herself, not Raid's name. She isn't simply a sister, but a reborn force, stronger and wholly separate from the family. She stands as Derrick's student, a true mage poised to unleash her power upon the arena. The Duplain family banner snaps in the wind above the duel grounds, a promise of conflict. Within the arena's circle, the woman in red faces her brother, a gulf now widening between them. A mustached official clears his throat, demanding the attention of the expectant crowd. He proclaims the duel's rules mirror those of the famed Hall of Ebelstein, strict and unwavering. Raig, radiating arrogance, declares they can begin the fight immediately, without further delay. Her gaze locks onto his, a fierce determination burning within her eyes as she prepares to fight. A green pendant flares to life, intercepting a lethal spell before it can strike its target. The white-haired tutor observes the pendant's cost, recognizing the duel's urgency intensifies. Raig raises a hand, weaving a furious wind spell that crackles with raw magical energy. The girl in the red hood watches the swirling winds descend, her expression stark and unyielding. He gathers power into his palm, a gleaming vortex of energy forming as he channels his magic. With unwavering confidence, he warns his brother that defeat will mean utter isolation. The noble unleashes a colossal gust of wind, a surging torrent aimed directly at the young woman. A swift strike launches forward, aimed directly at the young mage's chest. But the student stands firm, eyes locked onto the oncoming surge of magical energy. With nimble grace, she drops low, narrowly avoiding the wind blades slicing overhead. The dark-haired boy bristles, angered by her defiance in dodging his attack. Infuriated, he gestures, unleashing another rapid-fire spell toward the girl. She slides across the packed earth, evading a powerful follow-up strike from her rival. Despite the relentless assault, her focus remains unwavering, dissecting every enemy move. From the stands, the master observes her energy expenditure, recognizing a novice in battle. Back in the arena, a massive wind blade crashes, shattering a wall of reinforced ice. The girl summons towering walls of ice, drawing on the raw potential of her abilities. Her brother sneers at the crude defense, believing it won't withstand his strength. He raises a hand, conjuring glowing spheres of wind for a devastating barrage. Confident in his power, the mage vows to obliterate her meager defense entirely. He unleashes the spheres, a furious volley aimed at the girl's fragile ice barrier. A flashback reveals the master's lesson: a mercenary's goal is victory, at any cost. She understands victory isn't guaranteed, even winning won't silence her critics. He presses her, questioning if she'll stoop to underhanded tactics to claim this win. Eyes blazing with resolve, she declares her willingness to embrace any strategy without pause. Returning to the present, the cloaked girl confronts her rival with unwavering, defiant resolve. Violent gusts of wind descend as she sprints, desperately seeking cover from the assault. Again, she ducks and weaves, narrowly avoiding a slicing blade meant to end the fight. The voiceover reveals true strength lies in victory. Power isn't everything on the battlefield. His frustration mounting, the young man attacks again. Mercenaries fight to win, not for glory. She channels magic into the ground, initiating a swift slide. Terrain control is paramount. She halts with flair, demonstrating absolute determination to seize victory at any cost. A massive wind blade streaks toward her back, a stark reminder that errors can be fatal. Abruptly, a colossal ice pillar erupts, shielding her from the incoming, deadly attack. Exhausted, she braces against the icy barrier, struggling to withstand the immense force. Her opponent smirks, proclaiming the contest finished, and fear floods the girl's eyes. Trapped, a rapid-fire spell arcs around the ice, finding its mark and striking the apprentice directly. A shockwave rips through the arena, scattering dust and sending debris flying high. Unflinching, the white-haired tutor observes the explosion with unwavering composure. The mother rises, a desperate cry escaping her lips as she screams her daughter's name. Startled, the father also stands, while his wife demands the referee halt the brutal match immediately. Yet, the noble patriarch silences his wife, declaring the contest far from concluded. She was struck! The woman protests, but her husband notes the protective necklace remained inert. The bearded man falls silent, deep in thought as he struggles to make sense of the unfolding scene. His gaze shifts to the tutor, observing the white-haired boy seated calmly, utterly unfazed. A realization dawns on the patriarch. The master shows no fear, as if expecting this very outcome. Through the dissipating dust, the opponent advances, stumbling forward and visibly confused. He feels the magic connect but can't fathom why his defenses failed, frantically searching for his foe. Stepping across the shattered ice, the mage finally perceives something unsettling beneath his feet. A wooden plank near his boot cracks, a faint tremor hinting at the destruction below. Then, a colossal ice pillar erupts from the floor, launching the opponent skyward in a frozen whirlwind. The mage crashes down, skidding across the arena with a look of panicked desperation. He's instantly enraged, realizing his opponent is launching a surprise attack from below the stage. A glance at the referee reminds him, leaving the arena means automatic disqualification, a crushing loss. But the mustached official simply shakes his head, confirming the girl hasn't technically broken any rules. He quickly understands the space beneath the platform doesn't count as outside the arena, a cheap, underhanded tactic. At that very moment, the noble hears a splintering sound and drops his gaze, instantly on high alert. Another massive ice spike bursts through the wood, forcing him to leap back just to avoid it. A barrage of icy shards erupts from the arena floor, sending the mage scrambling for safety. Frustrated, the young man mutters he can't land a single blow on the elusive student, obscured by the chaos. Launching himself into the air, the warrior bitterly complains this fight lacks even a shred of noble decorum. Staring at the gaping hole torn in the floor, he roars his sister's name, fury lacing every syllable. Down below, the red-hooded apprentice returns his glare, her expression chillingly resolute and intense. The young mage's eyes blaze with determination, revealing she's prepared to do whatever it takes to win. A flicker of recognition crosses his face. He's seen that same calm, unnerving stare somewhere before. A slight turn of his head, and the dark-haired boy finally grasps the source of this influence. His gaze locks onto the white-haired tutor, certain this calculated strategy originated with him. He storms off, shoulders tight with fury, ready to settle this conflict alone. With resolve blazing, the mage sheds his heavy cloak, lightening his stance on the frozen ground. Extending a hand, he declares this is where he commits fully, embracing ruthless tactics. A swirling aura of raw power coalesces around the boy, illuminating the shattered arena. In the stands, the mother gasps, horrified to see her daughter embroiled in a brutal fight. She cries out for the duel to end, but her father urges patience, citing no rule violations. The patriarch watches, intrigued by his daughter's quick wit, deciding to observe further. Hidden within the shadows, the apprentice draws a shaky breath, bracing against an ice pillar. Intense focus sharpens her senses, desperately seeking a pattern in the coming assault. Tracking the drifting magical particles, she visualizes the opponent's entire mana current. Above, the noble begins a complex incantation, his gaze locked onto the contested floor. But before the spell completes, a shard of ice erupts, halting his casting at the last moment. Trembling with fury, the noble recognizes her precise attacks interrupt every attempt. Narrowing his eyes, he understands a shift in strategy is required to overcome her defense. From above, the warrior stands amidst the wreckage, a lone figure near a tattered banner. Beneath the surface, the apprentice senses the energy above abruptly cut off. A flicker of confusion crosses her face as she searches for the noble's next intention. The nervous referee watches from the sidelines, a bead of sweat forming as dread descends. In a flash, the young opponent leaps impossibly high, grasping the arena's central flagpole. Perched precariously, he believes himself safe from her assault, halting his incantation. The mage then directs a finger downwards, weaving a massive blue spell without a spoken word. A searing blast of azure energy erupts, ruthlessly demolishing the arena with savage force. The tutor remains unfazed, his serene expression betraying no sign of surprise or alarm. The raw power slams into the flagpole's stone base, fracturing the structure with a resounding crack. With the foundation shattered, the colossal metal pillar groans and plummets from the sky. Using the falling pillar as leverage, the warrior gains speed, driving towards the arena floor. The massive structure impacts the wooden stage, unleashing a blinding, deafening dust cloud. Witnessing the utter devastation, the mothers cry tears through the arena, filled with panic. Emerging from the swirling debris, the opponent lands gracefully on the ruined ground before them. Shielding his mouth from the dust, the noble scans the haze, desperately seeking his target. Dust still swirls, yet a small figure desperately attempts to escape the arena's center. Instantly, the warrior raises his hands, conjuring a brilliant, azure magic arrow. A deafening crack splits the air as the swift projectile tears through the haze, aimed at its target. The glowing arrow rockets toward the frightened eyes of the fleeing young mage. With incredible speed, the girl throws herself backward, narrowly avoiding the deadly strike. Now, the mage's hand blazes with concentrated, potent blue energy, building to a crescendo. The apprentice's eyes widen, fully understanding the overwhelming danger rushing toward her. A colossal spear of pure blue magic materializes, poised to obliterate everything in its path. Frozen in terror, the girl stares at the immense power forming directly before her. Unleashing the attack, the noble forces the girl to flee frantically through billowing dust. The warrior anticipates an easy victory, calculating that the short distance guarantees success. Unexpectedly, the young woman surges forward, slamming her own brother into the ice. A fierce determination blazes across the maid's face, signaling her unwavering fight for victory. Stunned and sprawling, the boy reels from the force of the entirely unexpected impact. Clutching his chest, the noble gasps, reeling from the student's surprising counterattack. Gritting her teeth, the young mage scoops up a handful of debris from the ruined arena floor. Acting on instinct, she hurls the dust and grit directly into the warrior's face below. A searing pain forces the noble to squeeze his eyes shut, momentarily losing all sight. As the boy struggles to regain his vision, the apprentice seizes the chance to put distance between them. Infuriated, the warrior questions if the girl resorts to such tactics from sheer desperation. He understands she's fighting with unwavering resolve, despite the overwhelming odds against her. A determined glint enters his eyes as he vows to unleash his full power upon his sister. The camera sweeps upward, revealing the radiant sun blazing in the clear blue expanse above. Returning to the arena, the little mage intently studies her opponent as he struggles to rise. Bruised and weary, the girl adjusts her hair, projecting an incredibly stoic composure. A trickle of crimson slides down her chin, a stark reminder of the brutal cost of this battle. The image dissolves, showing a drop of red ink blooming within a bucket of clear water. This vision reveals that magical energy flows like ink, and spells are crafted like brushstrokes. A sweeping crimson stroke forms, illustrating the demand for absolute precision in magic. Years ago, the white-haired master guided the student to hone her energy, painting the night sky. The tutor observes, defining this precise moment as the heart of true magical control. Absorbing his words, the girl understands at last how to harness the immense power within her. They recall the flash of blue, a beacon of hope shining brightly against a darkened sky. Now, the young woman closes her eyes, focusing intently on the lessons she's been taught. A brilliant, azure aura explodes outward, fully enveloping the apprentice in radiant energy. She feels raw power surge through every nerve, building toward a devastating counterstrike. The intensity of the light betrays her success. She has finally unlocked her full potential. Eyes blazing with purpose, the girl envisions a masterpiece born from focused strength. Beneath her feet, a complex magical circle materializes, summoning spiraling ice lances. The referee, witnessing this unfolding power, breaks into a cold sweat, recognizing the danger. The mother gasps, realizing her daughter is preparing to unleash advanced-level magic. Her brother, the opponent, sweats, shocked by the girl's power exceeding all expectations. Gripping a frozen lance, the young warrior stares unflinchingly at her opponent. He wastes no time, extending his arm to unleash a brutal, swirling vortex of blue energy. Certain of victory, the noble believes he remains a step ahead, launching a volley of arrows. He believes victory is assured, confident his attack will overwhelm her defenses completely. But the apprentice doesn't yield, unleashing a furious barrage of ice spikes with relentless power. The mage's eyes snap open, shocked as her lances shatter his spell, piercing through its core. A single spike connects with brutal force, erupting in a blinding flash across the arena floor. A deafening explosion rips through the stage, throwing up a swirling vortex of smoke and energy. Witnessing the devastating impact, the girl's mother cries out, consumed by fear for her child. From the chaos of dust and debris, a shimmering blue barrier suddenly expands into existence. The protective shield glows brilliantly, confirming someone endured the punishing, violent blow. Gasping for air, the dark-haired mage struggles to regain his composure after the impact. Across the arena, the young mage also struggles to breathe, her face marked with bruising. The white-haired master watches intently, his expression unwavering, completely focused on them. A flashback cuts in, a fragile bird's nest cradling 3 tiny, helpless chicks within it. The scene shifts to the mother bird diligently feeding her young near a sunlit window. Back in the present, the patriarch strides down a hallway, followed closely by his loyal butler. The bespectacled aide informs him of a recent message received from a prominent noble house. The patriarch observes from the doorway, finding his youngest daughter completely isolated. Her expression is hollow, a deep sadness reflected in the bedroom's bright window. Witnessing this, the bearded man remains quiet, his worry for the girl intensifying. Now, the apprentice bears fresh bruises across her scalp from the devastating impact. As the dust clears, the blue magical barrier shielding her begins to crumble away. Suddenly, the young mage understands the necklace's protective enchantment has engaged. Slammed to the ground, the noble struggles to rise, his gaze fixed on his opponent. In the stands, the tutor calmly shuts his eyes, already anticipating the outcome. The white-haired boy acknowledges his student ultimately succumbed to the crushing defeat. Overwhelmed with frustration, the little girl dissolves into sobs, weeping in the arena. From the balcony, the father watches his children clash amidst the shattered ground. But the mother whirls on her husband, enraged, demanding to know what kind of duel this was. Below, the apprentice continues to wipe her tears, heartbroken and utterly defeated. The family patriarch absorbs his wife's fury, his expression remaining stoic and firm. A flashback reveals the eldest son, clad in polished, full family knight armor. The patriarch observes the warrior, recognizing a familiar fire in his determined gaze. He concludes that these are eyes brimming with ambition, and an unyielding sense of self-worth. Back in the present, the young girl hides her face, overwhelmed by a surge of bitter frustration. The older noble studies his daughter, detecting a subtle but significant shift in her demeanor. He notes how her focus intensifies as the concerned maids cautiously move closer to her side. Attentive servants gather around the injured child, their faces etched with worry and care. As one maid reaches out, the little mage swiftly slaps her hand away, refusing assistance. Dismissing their concern, the girl turns back, resolutely facing her brother across the ice. The dark-haired boy is taken aback by his sister's fierce resolve, a flicker of surprise crossing his face. Scratching his neck, the warrior concedes, acknowledging the little apprentice's impressive skill. Yet, the girl dismisses the praise, lowering her head as she walks with the attending maids. Abruptly, the hooded figure halts, spotting a known face obstructing her forward path. She stops directly before her white-haired tutor, who remains seated calmly on the wooden bench. The master observes her in silence, his crimson eyes fixed solely upon the returning girl. Overcome with shame, the student avoids his gaze, her expression clouded with sadness. A fresh wave of anguish washes over her, as she shields her eyes from the devastating defeat. Her fingers grip the fabric of her dress, finally admitting the bitter truth of her loss. Tears streak her face as the apprentice offers a heartfelt apology to her stoic master. The white-haired tutor remains motionless, absorbing the weight of her despairing sobs. Then, with deliberate calm, he rises from the bench to offer his student solace. Gently placing his hands on her shoulders, he assures her that defeat holds no shame. He urges her to channel this frustration, forging it into the strength she needs to grow. Hearing his encouraging words, she lifts a tear-stained face, a flicker of comfort rising within. Overwhelmed, a new surge of emotion bursts forth, and she weeps openly before him. The gathered maids watch in stunned silence as her heartbroken cries echo across the courtyard. Abruptly, swift footsteps break the silence, announcing the arrival of the matriarch's emerald gown. Hurrying through the garden, she calls out her youngest daughter's name, fear lacing her voice. Kneeling beside her, the mother embraces her child, whispering about the pain she must have endured. The matriarch holds her injured daughter close, promising care and assuring her everything will be all right. Still choked with sobs, the apprentice simply nods, heartbroken by the crushing loss. The warrior is led away for care as the woman finally dries her tears, relief washing over her. Turning sharply, the lady presses a handkerchief to her face, steeling herself to confront the teacher. The cloaked master remains perfectly still, anticipating the onslaught from the visibly enraged noblewoman. With purposeful strides, the matriarch crosses the lawn, demanding answers for the brutal display of power. The young man's crimson eyes track her approach, his expression unwavering, eerily serene and calm. Incensed, she explodes, denouncing the boy as worthless and questioning the extent of his actions. He simply listens as the noblewoman laments the danger of teaching such potent magic, a reckless pursuit. She relentlessly berates the mentor, accusing him of defiling her youngest's honor with underhanded tactics. The white-haired man averts his gaze, acknowledging the weight of her words, the sting of her criticism. Driven by fury, the woman insists he can never grasp the world of privilege and noble standing. She declares that family dignity must be preserved as her husband's calm presence draws nearer. The matriarch's eyes flash with surprise as her husband's voice cuts through the air, rebuking her outburst. Gently taking her arm, The bearded man asks if she fails to recognize the true source of vulgarity here. Flustered, the lady defends her outrage, dismissing the mentor as a commoner with no social standing. The patriarch concedes his humble origins, but firmly reminds her he is his daughter's esteemed teacher. A chilling silence descends as the boy absorbs the strange energy radiating from this man. The patriarch turns to his tutor, a strained apology offered. Every parent loves their children uniquely. Red eyes fixated, the young mercenary stares directly at the nobleman, refusing to utter a word. The head of the house then invites the boy to a private chamber, hinting at a necessary, serious discussion. Stunned, the matriarch watches them depart through the opulent mansion gardens, lost in disbelief. Pressing her fingers to her face, the woman grits her teeth, frustrated by her husband's baffling decision. Inside the lavish room, the family patriarch dips his quill in ink, preparing a momentous decree. Seated at his grand desk, the bearded man declares a significant reward is due to the student's tutor. He then proposes the family's most treasured relic, a third-level spell, as an extraordinary gift. The mercenary's eyes widen in disbelief at the generosity and precision of this unexpected offer. Mentally, the white-haired man acknowledges the nobleman's shrewdness, recognizing a fifth-level mage's skill. Seizing this invaluable opportunity, the red-eyed boy accepts the proposition without hesitation. The nobleman cautions that the tutor performed admirably, but high society demands superior expertise. The white-haired man counters, insisting his student grasp the fundamentals and will rapidly improve. The patriarch cuts him off, revealing his daughter requires not merely an instructor, but a true master. The signature lands, sealing the fate of the renowned mercenary with a final, decisive stroke. His hands clasped tight, the Duke declares the commoner's dreams are wildly beyond his station. He argues this brazen ambition insults the nobility, a transgression overlooked only because of who he is. The boy absorbs each word in silence, understanding the Duke already knows his thirst for greater power. As he finishes signing, the house's patriarch confirms this is the reason the tutor must depart. The older noble's gaze pierces the boy, questioning if he fully anticipated this dismissal. Leaning back with ease, the young man affirms his readiness, earning a warning about his boundless ambition. The patriarch then proposes a task: further train the girl before claiming his substantial reward. The family head presses again, inquiring if the mercenary desires to master third-level magic immediately. A fiery glint ignites within his red eyes as he swiftly accepts this invaluable offer. The agreement struck, massive doors to the opulent library swing open, revealing untold secrets. Cloaked in shadow, the boy ventures into the corridors, captivated by shelves brimming with ancient texts. Driven by curiosity, he carefully extracts a heavy, time-worn grimoire from the towering bookcase. Opening the book, the mercenary meticulously studies the intricate magic circles etched on aged pages. Lost in the text, he plunges into reading, utterly consumed by the power held within. The sheer force of the magic overwhelms him, a testament to the family's incredible power. He muses that others kill for lesser spells, yet here, everything is third level and beyond. Driven to improve, the boy rapidly scans the grimoire, seeking strength within its ancient pages. A thoughtful pause. These invaluable books, the tutor realizes, are reason enough to remain. Meanwhile, the father sips from a wooden mug, anticipating the coming storm of his wife's anger. The scene shifts to two white doves soaring against a flawless, cloudless expanse of blue. Back in the courtyard, the apprentice, clad in red, strikes a confident pose, hands on her hips. Beaming with pride, she demonstrates to her master, declaring she's finally earned the mage title. The boy, engrossed in his studies, responds with sobering seriousness, she barely used magic in battle. Taken aback by his bluntness, the girl scratches her head, finding it's not easy to impress him. A fleeting glance, the tutor remembers a flood of tears on the day of her humiliating defeat. Flustered, the apprentice attempts a casual deflection, claiming dust simply irritated her eyes. Pouting slightly, she turns away, wishing her father had revealed the truth about keeping the tutor. The master calmly closes his grimoire, announcing it's time to tackle more challenging and complex spells. Her eyes lighting up, the girl rushes forward, eager to learn the attacks he intends to teach. He recalls a swift mastery is uncommon, especially since the surge of the Great Awakening. She proposes daring new spells, her brother's wind blade, or even piercing arrow magic. Thoughtfully, she admits fondness for the ice spear, but the tutor steers her back to fundamentals. Utterly perplexed, her eyes widen as she questions why they avoid offensive techniques. Sternly, the white-haired master insists a strong foundation is vital for every aspiring mage. Illustrating his point, he details controlling mana in its purest, most concentrated form. Disheartened, she sulks, yearning for explosive magic like she wielded before the match. She studies the master, noticing his intense focus, his gaze fixed on her bruised features. Flushing with embarrassment, she crosses her arms, questioning if something's wrong with her face. Relaxed, hand to chin, he simply observes how remarkably obedient she can truly be. Enraged, she snaps her head away, insisting she's always been attentive from the very start. A past memory surfaces, the young apprentice drenching her mentor with a full bucket of water. Calmly, the white-haired man recalls the incident, a chuckle escaping him. It happened twice. Flustered, she attempts to mask her guilt as the master's smile relives the mischievous past. Forced laughter bubbles up as she quickly changes the topic, praising the lovely training weather. A knowing smirk touches the mercenary's lips as the spectacle unfolds before him. Overhead, the full moon bathes the opulent estate in silver, illuminating its vast grounds. Exhausted, the small mage collapses onto the dew-kissed grass, gasping for a needed breath. The master observes his students fall, a flicker of concern crossing his weary features. Kneeling beside her, the white-haired boy declares more rigorous training awaits, and she nods. Clutching her head, the warrior frets over the endless curriculum demanded of nobles. Unfazed, the young teacher considers this a privilege, a rare opportunity for the eager girl. Overwhelmed, she struggles with the sheer volume of trivial subjects, lawsuits and maps alike. His gaze unwavering, the master reveals his eldest daughter excelled through similar discipline. Seated amongst the blades, they study the star-strewn sky as doubts cloud the girl's mind. With quiet confidence, the mentor assures her of the leader's unwavering support and protection. A wry smile forms as the girl remembers her mother's fury over past, similar disruptions. The master is puzzled, but she clarifies that continuing this path will bring harsh consequences. Stunned, he realizes these brutal lessons clash with the values of a civilized society. Sighing softly, the white-haired man concedes, admitting his training is raw and direct. A chilling statement escapes the teacher's lips. Silencing the matriarch presents no real challenge. Her eyes flash with alarm, the young apprentice struggling to grasp her mentor's cold intent. The following morning, sunlight spills over the grand towers of the family's opulent estate. Clad in emerald green, the older woman paces the courtyard, a retinue of maids trailing behind. Her mind replays the tutor's unsettling gaze and false courtesy, fueling a rising tide of fury. She dreads the thought of him instilling his ruthless nature within her cherished daughter's heart. The matriarch's fears materialize as her daughter bursts through the doors, leading a wild boar. Overwhelmed, the woman presses a hand to her brow, envisioning a grim and scandalous future. The attending maids swiftly shut the doors as the matriarch questions what a commoner can impart. Holding her head, frustration mounts, and she resolves to immediately seek a solution to this crisis. Abruptly, her attention snaps to a sweet voice, her beloved daughter calling out to her. Instantly, a warm smile graces her face, as she turns towards her youngest with affection. Overjoyed, the woman declares her delight in witnessing her little girl's radiant smile once more. But the matriarch's expression soon shifts, descending into a long and deeply pensive silence. A sidelong glance reveals a subtle change in her daughter, something distinctly unsettling now. The apprentice feels the energy above vanish, a sudden silence descending upon the arena. Confusion clouds her expression as she searches for the noble's next move, unsure what to expect. The anxious referee watches from the sidelines, a single bead of sweat betraying his growing dread. In a blur, the young warrior launches himself upward, seizing the arena's central flagpole with ease. Perched high above, he assumes he's beyond her reach, pausing his spellcasting with a smug grin. The mage responds by raising a single finger, unleashing a massive blue spell without uttering a word. An intense blast of azure energy erupts, obliterating the arena with unrestrained, brutal power. The tutor stands perfectly still, his serene face revealing no surprise at the unfolding devastation. The raw surge of magic slams into the flagpole's stone base, fracturing the colossal structure with a deafening crack. The foundation gives way, and the enormous metal pillar groans before plummeting towards the arena floor. Using the falling pillar as a weapon, the warrior accelerates, hurtling towards the stage below. The massive structure crashes down, engulfing the wooden stage in a blinding, ear-splitting dust cloud. The mother's cry cuts through the chaos, a desperate shriek of anguish echoing across the arena. Emerging from the swirling debris, the opponent lands gracefully amidst the shattered remains of the stage. Shielding his eyes from the dust, the noble frantically scans the haze, desperately seeking his rival. A gasp escapes her lips as the girl quickly covers her mouth, assuring everyone she meant no alarm. Sipping tea with her friend, a relieved smile touches her face. She claims her troubles are already behind her. The redhead casually smiles, bringing up whispers of her friend seeking a partner outside noble society. Closing her eyes with a laugh, the wealthy girl explains she's actually searching for a magic tutor for her sister. Utterly confused, the redhead wonders about the caliber of master her friend is even hoping to find. Just then, another silver-haired girl joins them, curious to hear more about this troublesome younger sister. The redhead agrees, recalling seeing the girl recently. She's blossomed into a remarkably polite young lady. Excitedly, the dark-haired girl praises her sister's refined posture, adding she's already mastering level 1 magic. The silver-haired girl scribbles furiously in her notebook, finding the details deeply strange, and deduces an exceptional tutor. A light laugh escapes the noble girl as she admits pursuing a mercenary. His skill outweighs his lack of fortune. In stunned silence, the studious girl looks up, her pen frozen mid-stroke at the shocking word, mercenary. The young redhead mirrors her shock, unable to conceal her surprise at this unbelievable revelation. Taking a delicate sip of tea, she pictures the rebellious student's reaction to this unconventional arrangement. She remembers the girl was so unruly she even drove the family's seasoned head chef to resignation. Reflecting on it, the noble finds it astonishing how quickly this notorious troublemaker became a powerful mage. A knowing grin spreads across the mercenary's face as the display unfolds before him. Bathed in moonlight, the estate's sprawling grounds shine silver as the spectacle continues. Utterly spent, the young mage slumps to the dewy grass, struggling to draw a vital breath. The master watches his students collapse, a flicker of worry crossing his weathered face. Kneeling beside her, the white-haired boy declares harsher training is coming, and she simply nods. Gripping her head, the warrior worries over the endless demands placed on noble daughters. Unmoved, the young tutor considers this a privilege, a rare chance for a truly determined student. Overwhelmed, she reels from the mountain of meaningless subjects, maps and legal codes alike. His gaze firm, the master reveals his eldest daughter thrived through the very same discipline. Seated amongst the shadows, they study the star-filled sky as doubt creeps into her thoughts. With quiet resolve, the mentor assures her of the leader's steadfast protection and support. A wry smile touches her lips as she recalls her mother's fury over past challenges. The master looks puzzled, but she warns him continuing down this path will bring severe fallout. Stunned, he grasps the brutal nature of these lessons, clashing with civilized expectations. With a soft sigh, the white-haired man concedes, acknowledging his methods are harsh and direct. A knowing smirk plays on the mercenary's lips as the drama unfolds before him. Silver moonlight floods the estate grounds, illuminating every detail of the vast landscape. The small mage crumbles to the dew-soaked grass, lungs burning as she fights for air. The master watches his student fall, a fleeting worry darkening his normally stoic expression. Kneeling beside her, the white-haired boy declares further training will come, and she manages a nod. The warrior clutches her head, frustrated by the endless lessons demanded of noble daughters. Unmoved, the young teacher insists this is a privilege, a rare chance for a dedicated student. She feels overwhelmed, struggling under the weight of countless unimportant topics, maps and laws. His gaze never faltering, the master explains his eldest daughter rose through similar rigor. Seated amongst the tall grass, they study the starfield above as doubt begins to creep in. With quiet resolve, the mentor assures her of the leader's steadfast protection and unwavering trust. A wry smile touches her lips as she recalls her mother's anger over disruptions just like this. The master looks puzzled, but she clarifies that this path will bring dire consequences down on them. He's stunned to realize these harsh lessons run against the very principles of civilized society. With a soft sigh, the white-haired man concedes, admitting his methods are blunt and unforgiving. A chilling recollection surfaces as the guard recalls the leader's assessment. The white-haired man is a prodigy. Shifting back to the present, the young soldier masks his unease, offering a clumsy compliment about the teacher's skill. Cutting through the pleasantries, the tutor demands the core issue, prompting a weary sigh from his companion. Visibly flustered, the soldier rubs his cheek, confessing his struggle to grasp the desires of young noblewomen. Unfazed, the silver-haired master stares back, his expression unreadable as he processes the strangely personal query. His face burning with embarrassment, the guard tentatively suggests a hand-stitched rag doll as a potential gift. The mental image of the bizarre offering causes the master to immediately dismiss the idea with a curt rejection. Chuckling nervously, the soldier concedes, admitting he anticipated the response and found the notion foolish himself. With a sigh, the guard rises, glancing towards the estate, and asks if the mage has concluded her evening practice. Clutching a worn book, the master follows his friend as they stroll across the expansive, dew-covered courtyard. Leading the way, the guard breaks the quiet, expressing his sincere gratitude for the teacher's invaluable assistance. A smile touches his lips as he notes a marked improvement in the estate's atmosphere, even brightening his father's mood. The white-haired man considers the Duke an enigma, a sentiment the guard readily confirms is universally shared. Abruptly, the guards halt on the lush grass, drawing the young master's attention from just behind them. Gazing at the star-filled sky, the young man reflects on the capacity for change, particularly within growing children. A knowing smirk plays on his lips as the spectacle unfolds before him. Overhead, the full moon casts a silver glow across the estate's sprawling grounds. Utterly spent, the young mage collapses onto the dew-soaked grass, struggling for air. The master watches his student fall, a flicker of worry crossing his weathered face. Kneeling beside her, the white-haired boy declares further training awaits, and she simply nods. Clutching her forehead, the warrior laments the endless lessons demanded of noble daughters. Unfazed, the young instructor deems this a privilege, a chance for the eager girl to truly grow. Overwhelmed, she reels from the sheer weight of trivial subjects, laws, maps, and endless lore. His gaze unwavering, the master recalls how his eldest daughter thrived through similar rigor. Seated amongst the tall grass, they study the star-filled sky as doubt creeps into the girl's mind. With quiet assurance, the mentor promises the leader's steadfast support and unwavering protection. A wry chuckle escapes her lips as she remembers her mother's rage over past disturbances. The master appears confused, but she explains this path holds consequences. Harsh ones indeed. Suddenly understanding, he realizes these lessons clash with the values of a civilized world. Sighing softly, the white-haired man concedes his methods are blunt, direct, and unforgiving. A hopeful smile crosses her face as she asks the woman to save another bloom for her master. But destiny intervenes, the vibrant flower slipping from her grasp and tumbling to the stone floor. Petals scatter like fallen tears, the delicate fragments ending the joyful moment in disarray. The small blonde freezes, shock washing over her as tears well up and streak down her cheeks. Her voice trembling with anguish, she whispers the name of her beloved tutor, a plea for understanding. Across the hall, her brother leans against the wall, stoic as he acknowledges the brutal honesty he just heard. His gaze hollow and detached, the white-haired man declares coldly he has nothing left to impart. A somber truth echoes, just as seasons shift, no winter or spring can last an eternity. Moments before, the master had briefed the imposing, bearded duke on the young mage's remarkable potential. He confesses that further interference would only stifle her growth, clipping the wings of a rising star. Turning away, the duke accepts the teacher's assessment, acknowledging his diminishing value within the estate. A weighty silence descends as the old duke grapples with the magnitude of his daughter's rapid evolution. Rising from his grand desk, the lord turns to face the young mercenary, offering a newfound respect. He walks to the window, his gaze settling on the distant trees, and offers heartfelt gratitude for the warrior's aid. He admits he became consumed by politics, lamenting his failure as a father and his neglect of his child. A knowing smirk plays on the mercenary's lips as the spectacle unfolds before him. Overhead, the full moon casts silver across the estate, illuminating its expansive, shadowed grounds. Spent and breathless, the young mage collapses onto the dew-soaked grass, struggling for air. The master watches his student fall, a flicker of worry briefly crossing his weathered face. Kneeling beside her, the white-haired boy declares further training awaits, and she simply nods. Clutching her head, the warrior laments the endless lessons demanded of noble-born students. Unmoved, the young teacher insists this is a privilege, a rare chance for a dedicated pupil. Overwhelmed, she grapples with a tidal wave of unimportant topics, from legal codes to detailed maps. His gaze firm, the master shares that his eldest daughter triumphed through the same harsh discipline. Seated amongst the looming shadows, they study the star-filled sky as doubts creep into her mind. With quiet resolve, the mentor promises her the leader's steadfast support and unwavering protection. A wry smile touches her lips as she recalls her mother's rage over comparable past disruptions. The master looks puzzled, yet she insists this path will lead to dire and unforgiving consequences. Stunned, he realizes these cruel lessons betray the principles of a civilized and ordered society. Sighing softly, the white-haired man concedes, admitting his methods are severe and uncompromising. A curt nod seals the mercenary's farewell, promising future encounters within the gilded halls of high society. The apprentice's fists tighten, a visible tremor running through her as the weight of loss begins to settle. A casual smile plays on his lips, the boy assures her their paths will cross again, strengthened by time. A childish pout tugs at her lips, barely concealing the tears as she mutters a frustrated complaint. Darkness descends upon the sprawling estate, and she concedes he consistently holds the answer to everything. Restless sleep finds her, sweat slicking her skin, caught in the suffocating grip of a harrowing nightmare. Within the dream, grotesque shadows swirl around her, mocking whispers claiming she lacks any true talent. Terror grips the child, a continuous stream of tears flowing as cruel voices denounce her as a family disgrace. Her blue eyes widen in sheer terror, as the voices coldly declare she should never have been brought into this world. A strangled scream rips from her throat, and she jolts awake, clutching the bedsheets with desperate force. Alone in the darkened chamber, she gasps for air, her breathing shallow and erratic while fighting off panic. Reaching for her damp brow, a wave of relief washes over her as she realizes it was merely a nightmare. The door creaks open, revealing a concerned maid who rushes to her side, anxious for her well-being. Composed, she meets the maid's gaze as the woman explains she heard a disturbing sound within the room. A subtle hesitation creeps into her expression, a nascent thought stirring within the young mage's mind. She considers reverting to spoiled tantrums, just to manufacture a convenient excuse for her behavior. Beneath the covers, her hands tremble as the girl wrestles with a confusing swirl of emotions. She questions if her master will remain patient, while the concerned maid asks about her well-being. Yet, defying expectations, A surprisingly calm smile graces the young apprentice's lips. The maid is stunned as the little girl vows to abandon her former, irritating habits forever. With a brilliant smile, the blonde child reassures the woman, claiming arrogance holds no real worth. Sunlight breaks across the sprawling estate, signaling the dawn of a promising new day. In the courtyard, the white-haired man secures his bag in the carriage, coordinating their departure. Smiling sweetly from within the carriage, the noblewoman tells him to bid farewell. They're leaving now. Cloaked in dark fabric, the silver-haired mage simply inclines his head, acknowledging her words. Outside, the family and loyal servants assemble before the castle, ready to offer their farewells. Turning to her former teacher, the girl asks if his departure is truly final. He confirms it is. Her older brother commends the mage's dedication, offering assistance should he ever require it. With quiet humility, the young mercenary bows his head, expressing gratitude for their kindness. He raises his gaze, his piercing red eyes locking onto his former student across the courtyard. A final, curt nod confirms the mercenary's departure, hinting at future meetings amongst the elite. Her small hands clench, a visible tremor betraying the growing sorrow settling within her heart. He offers a reassuring smile, promising their paths will converge again, forged stronger with time. A childish pout forms on her lips, weakly masking the rising tears as she voices her frustration. Nightfall blankets the grand estate, and she admits he always seems to have the answer to everything. Restless sleep descends, sweat beating on her skin as a terrifying nightmare grips her tightly. Within the dream, shadowy figures twist around her, their mocking whispers questioning her talent. Terror consumes the girl, a constant flow of tears as cruel voices brand her a family disappointment. Her blue eyes widen in panic as the voices relentlessly declare she never should have been born. A choked scream escapes her lips, and she awakens with a jolt, clutching the sheets in desperation. Alone in the darkened room, she gasps for breath, her panicked breaths coming in shallow waves. Reaching for her forehead, relief washes over her, as she recognizes the horror as only a dream. The door creaks open, and a worried maid rushes in, anxious over the disturbance she overheard. Composed, she meets the maid's gaze as the woman explains hearing a frightening noise from within. A flicker of thought crosses her face, a subtle hesitation in the young mage's expression now. A gentle touch to the noble's cheek, he urges her not to rush the slow bloom of maturity. Fresh tears gather in the warrior's blue eyes, overwhelming her with a surge of raw emotion. Turning her back to the departing carriage, she desperately tries to conceal her grief and stems the flow. Halfway through his departure, the master hears her voice and pauses for a fleeting, final glance. A tear-streaked smile crosses her face as the young mage waves farewell, promising to meet again. She continues waving, watching her tutor settle into the carriage, ready to depart into the distance. A choked sob escapes her lips as the noble vows to meet him again, fueled by rigorous training. Inside the carriage, the boy remains silent, his gaze fixed on the vast expanse of the blue sky. The cart rumbles into the bustling marketplace, scattering a plump rat fleeing through stacked crates. The tavern door groans open, revealing two battle-scarred axes embedded in the weathered wood. Within, a young boy crumples under a brutal punch while a raucous crowd cheers on the violence. The white-haired man observes the scene with composure, as two hulking figures restrain the fallen boy. Blood blossoms on the injured boy's face, the brawler raising his fist for a devastating final strike. Suddenly, a blonde girl with a vibrant ponytail bursts onto the scene, excitedly shouting his name. A knowing smirk plays across the silver-haired man's lips as he raises his hand, stopping his friend. A final nod confirms the mercenary's departure, hinting at future meetings within opulent society. Her clenched fists tremble, the apprentice now feeling the heavy weight of her recent, stinging loss. A playful smile touches his lips, assuring her their paths will inevitably cross, now forged in time. A childish pout barely masks her rising tears as she grumbles a frustrated complaint under her breath. Night descends upon the sprawling estate, and she concedes he always seems to have the answers. Restless sleep offers no peace, sweat clinging to her skin as she's trapped in a terrifying nightmare. Within the dream, grotesque shadows taunt her, whispering that she possesses no genuine talent. Terror overwhelms the child, a constant flow of tears as cruel voices denounce her as a disgrace. Her blue eyes widen in abject fear as the voices coldly state she shouldn't have been born at all. A strangled scream escapes her lips, and she jolts awake, desperately clutching the bedsheets tight. Alone in the darkened room, she gasps for air, her panicked breathing shallow and unstable. Reaching for her feverish brow, relief floods her as she realizes the horror was just a dream. The door creaks open, revealing a concerned maid rushing to her side, worried over her well-being. Composed, she meets the maid's anxious gaze as the woman explains she heard a disturbing noise. A subtle hesitation flickers across her face, a nascent thought taking root within the young mage's mind. A lone candle flickers, casting long shadows across the hall's polished floors. The white-haired man requests new assignments, while the blonde lounges nearby, sensing his eagerness. He admits his edge has dulled, explaining a need for rigorous, practical training. The bartender, leaning on his broom, assures them skilled mages are always in demand. Eagerly, the mercenary declares he's ready to begin, ideally, at first light. Dawn breaks as the pair's cart rattles along a dusty road, the sun climbing higher. A grotesque green monster erupts from the undergrowth, launching a frantic attack on the archer. But with swift teamwork, the beast falls, and the warrior wipes sweat from her aching arm. Within a cavern's depths, monstrous spiders descend, hungering for a pair of fresh victims. Aboard the swaying cart, the mage immerses himself in a book, while his companion battles sickness. As night descends, they huddle around a crackling campfire, seeking warmth against the chill. Distant from the camp, the silver-haired man practices, unleashing a radiant blue aura. Eyes closed in intense focus, he channels all his magical energy into a surging spell. A vibrant mana stone levitates between his hands, pulsing with blinding, ethereal light. Overwhelmed by the force, the boy is hurled backward, consumed by a brilliant flash. A final burst of energy sends a vibrant blue flare through the darkness, visible for miles around. Collapsing onto the damp earth, the warrior gasps for air, a hand bracing against the weight of exhaustion. He scans the weathered pages, realizing mastery of the level 2 spells is now within his reach. Yet, the mage understands the barrier to level 3 remains a daunting challenge, impossible to face alone. Time flows onward as autumn descends, scattering crimson leaves across the tavern's worn wooden planks. Winter's icy grip tightens, blanketing the town in snow and ushering in a bitter, relentless cold. The tavern door groans open, a rush of frigid air announcing new arrivals to the dimly lit space. The white-haired man and blonde girl stumble inside, battered and chilled, the woman voicing her frustration. The bartender admires the girl's resilience, as the archer scolds her companion for ignoring her warnings. He notes only fools would hunt a harpy in this wretched, unforgiving weather. Warmth spreads through him with the hot towel, easing the ache of the grueling, recent mission. The innkeeper offers them rest, but a fresh opportunity awaits, a job tailored for a young blade. He promises a simple task with generous rewards, though admittedly, a touch on the mundane side. The contract, he explains, originated with the respected Rojo mercenary corps on West Street. The bartender wonders if the young man is acquainted with Count Belmed, a figure of local renown. A summons echoes, a desperate search for a sparring partner, a magic duel's unwilling sacrifice. He only needs to endure a few blows, and with that acceptance, the mage arrives at the opulent arena. Two figures approach the training grounds, an older man and a red-haired girl deep in conversation. She presses for details about her opponent, and the master reveals a commoner was chosen for her practice. Indignant, the noblewoman protests fighting a commoner, deeming the entire premise utterly ridiculous. But her mentor offers a reassuring smile, explaining the training's value and the generous reward it brings. She scoffs, muttering that the wealthy always exploit the less fortunate as mere tools for advancement. She concedes her rival wields only level 1 magic, yet she's already nearing the power of level 2. Seated on a nearby bench, the white-haired man steals his focus, meticulously adjusting his fighting gloves. He rises, clearing his throat, meeting his opponent's gaze with the icy intensity of his crimson eyes. Arms crossed, the noblewoman scrutinizes him, questioning if he's the designated opponent for today's session. Offering a respectful bow, the white-haired mage introduces himself to the young noblewoman, stating his name. Alenton responds, a flicker of recognition crossing her face. She's certain she's heard that name before. Her master expresses surprise at his youth, and Alenton calls them both forward into the combat arena. Within the courtyard, the young warrior begins to stretch, preparing his body for the impending training bout. A sharp question escapes her lips, demanding if the mercenary understands the core tenets of magical combat. With a solemn nod, the silver-haired man confirms his knowledge, asserting he knows every rule of engagement. Satisfied with his answer, the noblewoman challenges him to unleash everything he has, promising a swift victory. She envisions a simple shockwave, a decisive burst of power to end the duel in a single, swift motion. But he interrupts, questioning the extent of her force, asking precisely how much resistance she intends to use. The question throws the mage off balance, a peculiar inquiry that strikes her as strangely absurd. He clarifies, explaining he requires the information to tailor his support, maximizing her training potential. The older master watches with quiet scrutiny, a flicker of intrigue in his eyes as the exchange unfolds. A dismissive chuckle bubbles from her, amused by the mercenary's boldness and perceived naivete. A teasing smirk curves her lips as she reiterates her challenge, urging him to fight with unrestrained power. The white-haired man pauses, absorbing the insistent demand of his opponent before responding. He concedes, agreeing to meet her force with his own, as vibrant blue energy coalesces in his open palms. Magical auras ignite around them, the two mages standing poised, ready to begin their battle for dominance. She casts her spell, silently dismissing his arrogance, despite his youthful mastery of arcane energies. A cold determination settles over her, as she prepares to demonstrate the vast gap between noble and commoner. A massive blast of magic surges forward, aimed directly at the unflinching mercenary. Crimson eyes meet the oncoming force without flinching, betraying no hint of apprehension. He remains rooted, absorbing the approach of the spell with unwavering, assured confidence. The magic collides with an unseen shield, detonating in a brilliant flare that never connects. Stunned, the young mage can't believe her devastating attack failed to even touch him. Calmly, the silver-haired man inquires what devastating technique she intends to unleash next. A surge of fury and disbelief floods her as she recognizes the validity of his confidence. But she dismisses it, summoning a far more potent spell, a razor-edged magic arrow. With a swift motion, the mage unleashes a storm of arrows, each glowing with frigid blue energy. "This is the end," she cries, channeling all her power into a final, devastating volley. Yet, with uncanny ease, the mercenary deflects a single arrow, sending it hurtling back toward her. Her eyes widen in disbelief as she witnesses her own power redirected against herself. Abruptly, the entire barrage of blue energy alters course, veering harmlessly away from her. The noblewoman stands frozen, narrowly avoiding the redirected force of her own attack. How could someone control a simple spell with such impossible precision and effortless power? The master acknowledges the rumors were true. His magical prowess is genuinely extraordinary. A searing aura erupts around her as the mage concedes she underestimated her opponent's strength. She declares she will hold nothing back, unleashing a terrifying surge of raw, untamed power. The white-haired man instantly recognizes the shift. She intends to obliterate the entire training ground. He praises her adaptability, even as she channels a blazing spell of frightening intensity. A golden rain of fire spears descends, saturating the arena with searing, incandescent energy. The young mercenary faces the approaching inferno, his expression utterly unreadable, composed. He calculates the impossible angle, realizing there's no evading this overwhelming, widespread attack. Instinctively, the mage conjures a shimmering dome of blue energy, bracing for the fiery onslaught. Fire spears detonate against the shield, sending shockwaves that force him to his knees. The noblewoman watches as a thick cloud of smoke and dust billows up, obscuring the aftermath. Slowly, the dust settles, revealing the devastating impact of her explosive, fiery barrage. Emerging from the haze, the white-haired man stands unscathed, his hand raised in a silent challenge. Suddenly, his eyes widen in disbelief, sensing an unforeseen development unfolding before him. A crimson blur erupts from the smoke. An ice spear materializes inches from his face with impossible speed. He calculates instantly. No time to block or even raise a defense at this range. A flicker of respect crosses his face. Her raw power confirms she's exceptionally gifted. Then, a blinding white light erupts between them, washing over the courtyard in brilliance. A choked cry escapes her lips as the light overwhelms her, leaving her sightless and reeling. The sheer force sends her tumbling backward, dazed and disoriented, crashing onto the ground. Vision swimming, she struggles to regain her bearings, finding everything blurred and indistinct. She strains her hearing, desperate to pinpoint his location amidst the sudden, unsettling quiet. A streak of ice flashes past her cheek, a lethal blade narrowly missing a direct hit. Fear spikes within her as she realizes she heard absolutely nothing before the attack. The truth dawns. He's deployed a sound-nullifying spell, masking his every move in silence. Another icy projectile hurtles toward her, an invisible threat delivered with deadly precision. The blade schemes her skin, drawing a thin line of blood, amplifying her mounting terror. Did he truly expect her to rely on sound alone after a blinding magical assault? A chilling realization hits. That initial attack wasn't meant to harm, but to test her. A surge of fury ignites within her. He deliberately held back, concealing his true strength. Ice blades spin relentlessly, controlled by the boy as they circle him in a dazzling display. The redhead shouts down his chances, then swiftly raises a shimmering mana barrier for defense. But surprise floods her eyes as she tracks a sudden, impossibly quick shift in his stance. The mage reels back, shocked to see him charging across the arena, closing distance with speed. She scoffs, calling him foolish, confident in her specialty. Instantaneous mana for brutal attacks. The mercenary advances, hand outstretched, poised to strike with calculated precision. The young noble prepares to unleash her magic, preemptively ending the fight in one fell swoop. Instead of a hand strike, he slams his foot down, the impact sending a tremor through the arena. A shockwave rips across the ground, violently throwing the mage backward, shattering her balance. Disoriented and reeling, the redhead struggles to understand the force that just slammed into her. A surge of violet energy erupts from the ground around the mercenary, captivating the onlookers. The noblewoman gasps, realizing he's channeling magic through his feet, unleashing a furious barrage. Struck by the searing electric rays, the young mage screams, pain jolting through every nerve. The older teacher watches, stunned, as the mercenary surges forward and his student endures the assault. Immediately, The master recognizes he can't decipher the boy's movements, a disconcerting mystery. Fallon stumbles back, breathless and stunned by the sheer force radiating from the young mage before her. A small smile touches her lips as she concedes he's unlike anyone she's faced, wiping sweat from her brow. He steps closer, admitting he initially underestimated her, believing her power was largely overstated. He continues, confessing he dismissed her as mere bravado, a talkative noble with little genuine skill. Rising to meet him, the redhead listens intently, her gaze fixed on her formidable opponent's every word. A respectful bow follows as the mage thanks him for the lesson, a surprisingly enlightening encounter. Confidence returns with a brilliant smile, her eyes sparking with renewed determination and a fresh test. Suddenly, she leaps forward, unleashing a barrage of violet energy bolts at the unsuspecting mercenary. The silver-haired man narrowly evades the attack, raising his hands to deflect the remaining electric surges. An energy shield flares to life, absorbing the onslaught as she continues her relentless assault of rays. Caught in her own magical backlash, the noblewoman cries out, hurled backward by the explosive force. Reacting instantly, the mercenary catches her midair, preventing a brutal impact with the hard ground. His red eyes blaze with intensity as he meets her gaze, a serious expression etched onto his features. The redhead is frozen in shock, overwhelmed by the unexpected turn of events, her heart hammering in her chest, sweat beading on her skin. A resounding bell cuts through the air, signaling the duel's end and halting the fierce battle between them. With quiet resolve, the master rings the bell, officially concluding the young noble's intensive training. The mage straightens, regaining her poised composure as she steps away from the silver-haired mercenary. She offers polite praise, acknowledging his skill, while he responds with a deeply respectful bow. A flash of annoyance crosses her face, the wind whipping through her crimson hair, betraying her frustration. Moments later, the white-haired man discovers the noblewoman seated, a maid carefully styling her fiery locks. He compliments her magical talent, but she swiftly counters, praising his unbelievably quick reflexes. A playful smile touches her lips as she suggests he's become quite accustomed to flattering others for survival. The mercenary calmly explains the harsh realities of his life, detailing how survival demanded clever tactics. The mage claims to admire dedication, yet her former mentor watches the interaction with undisguised suspicion. She subtly warns him to avoid provoking the old man, hinting at swift and severe consequences if he does. The noblewoman declares she's learned much from him, revealing her upcoming battle in Rosea Hall awaits. The mercenary assures her that her immense power should easily carry her through the next competitive duel. She delicately raises her teacup, dismissing all others, as her focus narrows to crushing a single opponent. A vision of a beautiful blue-haired woman surfaces in her mind, radiating warmth and potent magical energy. The noblewoman coldly states her greatest rival's name, Iseline Eleanor Duplain, a renowned and powerful mage. A flicker of recognition crosses his face, the mercenary pausing as he processes the name spoken aloud. With a curt wave, the mage effectively dismisses him, granting permission for the man to continue on his journey. He departs, leaving the haughty noblewoman and her attendant alone within the estate's grand, opulent hall. Cupping her warm drink, the redhead ponders the name, Derrick, of the Belden mercenaries, straining to place its origin. Sipping her tea, she wrestles with the unsettling feeling of familiarity surrounding that name and distant place. A fragmented memory surfaces. A blue-haired girl once spoke of Derrick, the recollection suddenly flooding her mind. Shock ripples across her face as the realization dawns, the noblewoman finally remembering where she's encountered the name. Cloaked in shadow, the silver-haired mage strides across the expansive courtyard, preparing to depart the estate. But as he moves, a flash of red intercepts him. The noblewoman seizes his arm, halting his escape cold. The white-haired man turns, his expression bewildered by her sudden, desperate grasp, questioning her intent. He remains silent, his gaze fixed upon her, awaiting an explanation for this unexpected and jarring intervention. A triumphant smirk plays on her lips as she accuses him of training her rival, Iseline, in the art of combat. Dusk descends, bathing the sprawling, magnificent mansion in the warm glow of the setting sun's final light. Within a richly appointed chamber, a roaring fireplace casts dancing shadows, filling the room with comforting warmth. Settling near the hearth, the noblewoman declares her intent, vowing to dismantle Iseline by any means necessary. A flicker of surprise crosses his face as the girl unexpectedly speaks his name during their exchange. She admits she needs to reach level 2, but acknowledges even winning this duel would be a significant feat. He notes her talent for downplaying harsh truths, recalling her description of the girl as merely competitive. She confesses, almost impulsively, to a past obsession with victory, a willingness to stoop to any level to win. The mage remains silent, listening as she admits she gave no thought to fairness when facing her rival. Her reflection shimmering in her tea, she reveals envy is an ugly emotion, one she's intimately familiar with. Yet, those feelings ultimately proved irrelevant, as her opponent consistently showed her kindness despite provocation. The mercenary cuts through the introspection, demanding to know the reason she's sharing this confession. She deliberately sets her teacup down, the soft click against wood punctuating the sudden shift in tone. With unwavering seriousness, she assures him this isn't idle chatter. She has crucial questions to ask. He adopts a relaxed posture, gesturing for her to simply state her needs without further delay. Settling closer to the warmth of the fire, she reasons he already understands the vast scale of her rival's power. Her gaze unwavering, she presses further, seeking a precise understanding of the gap between their abilities. The mercenary listens patiently, allowing her to justify her pointed inquiries with a compelling honesty. A vivid memory of the blue-haired mage resurfaces in her mind, a stark reminder of the power she faces. A challenge sparks in her eyes as the noblewoman demands to know the key to victory. The mage remains composed, silently dissecting the weight behind her pointed question. He sets down his cup, acknowledging her rival's strength with measured, deliberate praise. The mercenary observes she possesses a rapid learning curve, keenly reading the intentions of others. His gaze meets hers, realizing her inquiry wasn't for genuine counsel, but a search for flattery. Watching the flickering flames, he detects a desperate plea hidden beneath her haughty facade. A suffocating tension descends upon the opulent hall, thick between the pair by the hearth. The silver-haired man pauses, carefully choosing his words to deliver a harsh, undeniable truth. With chilling directness, he declares her victory against Azaleen remains utterly impossible. The redhead stiffens, absorbing the brutal honesty of his assessment with growing disbelief. Crimson eyes burn with intense focus as he maintains his unyielding, unwavering composure. Yet, she forces a swallow, revealing a fierce refusal to surrender her ambitions so easily. Lifting her chin, she vows to triumph, defiant even in the face of overwhelming odds. The white-haired man observes her unwavering resolve, listening in quiet contemplation. Suddenly, she leans forward, accusing him of being the architect behind Azaleen's growing power. A plea escapes her lips, begging him to take her as a student and secure her ultimate triumph. The mercenary responds with a weary sigh, unflinching in his composure despite the strange request. He admits a path exists, yet cautions her, a growing unease clouding his normally steady tone. She resettles, arms folding, intrigued by his words and demanding to know the source of his concern. Bluntly, he questions if she truly understands the brutal methods behind those ancient training regimes. A harsh flashback explodes. A young woman, bruised and broken, sprawls across a lavish bedroom floor. Overseeing her torment, a figure looms, brandishing a massive blade and wearing a chilling, cruel smile. The weapon rises, radiating with icy blue magic, poised to descend upon the defenseless student. The noblewoman protests ignorance of the details, yet vows to sacrifice anything to achieve victory. Shifting gears, the white-haired man reminds her of a crucial fact. His life revolves around contracts. She dismisses his concerns with a scoff, declaring status holds no sway when it comes to her ambitions. Facing him directly, she reveals her burning desire to become the most renowned mage in the empire. The young man hears her conviction, understanding her ambition demands the fall of established nobles. Pressing a hand to her chest, she asks for understanding, asserting her clarity on life's true values. He simply observes her resolute expression, his own face remaining unreadable and still. He shatters the tension, stating bluntly that a mercenary's skill demands a hefty price. Stunned silence descends as the noblewoman processes his demand, shock widening her eyes. A crimson flush creeps across her face, mortification rising within the opulent chamber. Overwhelmed with embarrassment, she pledges to meet his price, no matter the exorbitant cost. His gaze sharpens, the mercenary revealing the brutal truth: their training will be merciless. Elsewhere, a blue-haired girl discusses the upcoming magic duel with her companions. Overhearing their whispers, the noblewoman's ambition ignites. She will compete in the event. A friend urges the blue-haired mage to acknowledge the full extent of her own power. Meeting her rival's gaze, the redhead delivers a deliberately provocative, subtle smile. A wave of scorn crosses her mind, convinced she's claimed what her opponent couldn't. The blue-haired mage's lips part slightly, surprise flickering across her features. She offers a gracious congratulation, acknowledging him as a truly gifted instructor. With genuine warmth, the young woman praises her rival, a sincere compliment offered. An awkward thanks escapes the noblewoman, confusion brewing. Her rival's reaction feels off. The blue-haired girl holds her gaze, a silent intensity radiating from her expression. She recalls advising Della to seek Derrick's guidance, requesting additional magical instruction. Yet the panicked blonde implored her friend to abandon the idea, begging her not to ask. Now, the mage pauses, hand to chin, piecing together the puzzle of this unfolding situation. A cruel smile touches her lips, convinced Azaleen grasps the subtle threat within her words. In flashback, she taunts Della, claiming to have stolen her instructor right before her eyes. The blue-eyed girl attempts to speak of Derrick, but is immediately silenced by the redhead's scorn. With a dismissive smile, the mage declares the conversation pleasant before excusing herself to train. The noblewoman strides away, brimming with self-assurance, while Azaleen watches from afar. The mage reasons Derrick is harmless, dismissing the incident as youthful rivalry and overblown drama. Observing from a distance, a white-haired woman sips her tea, witnessing the nobles' exchange. She muses calmly that self-interest guides everyone's actions, a cynical truth she's observed. Within the bustling Belden mercenary tavern, daily life continues, oblivious to noble schemes. The group's leader presses Derrick, questioning the sudden surge in Belmid family contracts. He accepts a drink, assuring his boss he manages everything efficiently, avoiding travel altogether. But the older man presses further, doubting the young noble's ability to triumph in the duel. A subtle confidence flickers across his face as he states the impossible isn't, and a plan exists. He clarifies that surpassing second-level magic is the key to turning the tide in their favor. The boss grips a barrel, dismissing his words as fantasy, and demands to know the truth. With solemn intensity, the young man reveals this is precisely what he needed to discuss, requesting aid. Silence descends as the older man stares, confusion etching itself onto his weathered features. Crimson eyes declare their safety hinges on securing the assistance of someone named Pelin. Barrel in hand, the boss remains quiet, absorbing the weight of this unexpected information. He sharply accuses the mercenary of concocting a reckless scheme instead of a reasoned strategy. The mercenary confesses to his uncle that, truthfully, the entire undertaking borders on desperate. A flashback. Young Pelin sobs uncontrollably, branding her tormentors as heartless swindlers. She continues her lament at a crowded tavern, crying out that she was robbed of everything. With a heavy sigh, the boss reluctantly agrees to participate, deeming the plan utterly foolish. As twilight descends, rigorous training commences within the noble estate's vast grounds. Arms crossed, the mage listens as the mercenary declares their first lesson will be a brutal spar. He stretches, outlining their method, 10 repetitions to dissect and understand her magic. He calmly states he must first witness her true fighting capabilities. The redhead counters that his rigorous methods are precisely what she requested. Blue mana flares around his hand as he signals the start of their brutal training. The training courtyard lies in ruins, the earth fractured from the fierce exchange. Bruised and breathless, the noblewoman collapses to her knees, utterly spent. He offers a curt thanks for her effort, advising a 10-minute recovery period. Stunned, she protests, claiming her mana reserves are completely depleted. His voice cuts like ice, asserting she possesses untapped reserves if she truly strives. He sharply critiques her technique, demanding she conjure 10 more ice lances now. Scolding her, he presses, questioning her ability if she cannot manage this. With 5 remaining, he commands her to unleash another 100 magic arrows as twilight descends. Collapsing onto the ground, she cries out, unable to endure another moment of struggle. Yet he acknowledges her effort, finally granting permission for her to eat dinner. He casually inquires if she's alright, reminding her she's free to concede if needed. A furious roar erupts as the noblewoman surges to her feet, fueled by frustration. A flicker of doubt crosses his face as she challenges him, questioning his warnings. The noblewoman insists he cannot fathom her struggles for survival, dismissing this as trivial. He concedes, admitting perhaps he underestimated the depth of her hidden resilience. Turning away, she claims exhaustion, promising to reveal her true power tomorrow. A subtle smile touches his lips as he requests tomorrow's training be even more demanding. Confused, the mercenary questions her meaning, struggling to grasp the concept of tomorrow. She stares back, uncomprehending of his question, remaining utterly and unnervingly silent. His voice hardens as he reminds her this is merely a break, a pause for their evening meal. Tension thickens between them as they stand motionless within the mansion's shadowed courtyard. She scoffs, accusing him of a strange sense of humor, but he insists he speaks with sincerity. Beneath the blazing sun, the noblewoman pushes on, training relentlessly before the mansion. Summoning 5 glowing arrows with intense straying, she performs under his watchful gaze. He demands 10 more, prompting a frustrated shout. Why does the demand always increase? They launch into a punishing run, him warning a stalled pace means grueling mana training. Collapsing into a chair, the exhausted mage stares ahead, breathless and utterly defeated. A flicker of recognition crosses his face, but she brushes it off with forced cheer. He reiterates she can surrender, claiming she's free to stop if the training overwhelms her. The noblewoman forces a confident smile, insisting this is effortless, and she won't yield. Crimson eyes lock onto her, unyielding and betraying no trace of sympathy. He rises smoothly, announcing her rest is over, and the true duel begins now. A sculpted angel in the garden marks the passage of 2 weeks. Relentless, focused training. Exhausted, she slumps at the table, requesting to be roused when Azaleen arrives. Her head resting on the wood, she laments the draining toll of unending magical practice. He gently inquires, questioning the source of her relentless self-imposed hardship. A long pause hangs in the air as she considers the weight of her ambition. She lifts her head and declares, with unwavering resolve, that winning is all that matters. Her friend listens in silence, her blue eyes filled with quiet observation. Offering a supportive smile, she pledges her unwavering encouragement toward victory. The noblewoman turns, a hint of surprise fleeting across her features. She spots a gathering of figures approaching, recognizing her rival within their ranks. A messenger announces Isoline's presence, startling the redhead into a quick, sharp rise. The blue-haired mage enters with her usual composure, a serene calm radiating outward. Frantically, she scrambles to smooth her hair and adjust her rumpled clothing. Her rival casually suggests a visit to the latest boutique, and the young woman accepts, flustered. Once the group departs, the noblewoman buries her face within her hands in distress. She anxiously asks if they've truly gone, and the white-haired girl confirms their exit. Relief washes over her, as she wonders if they witnessed her disheveled state at the table. From across the room, her rival's gaze lingers, a flicker of surprise on her face. Isoline considers her opponent's weariness, concern etching itself onto her features. As twilight descends, the mansion is cloaked in gray, mirroring a somber mood. A maid enters to announce the arrival of a gift from the Duplain family, addressed to her. Within a polished wooden box lie several potent potions, a delicate letter, and fresh blooms. The servant reveals Aceline herself sent the restorative items, designed to replenish mana. She acknowledges their quality, yet the redhead immediately commands they be discarded. With unwavering resolve, the mage repeats her order, remove everything from her sight at once, and the servant swiftly obeys. A request for her instructor echoes as a servant announces his arrival. A rival's letter appears, hinting at the harshness of the approaching winter. The servant smooths her hair while the letter extends warm seasonal greetings. Within the script, the rival boasts of her family's renowned craftsmanship. She details sending gifts to share with the other young ladies of the court. The letter concludes with well wishes and Eileen's elegant signature. Outside, the mercenary sits composed, lost in the pages of a worn book. A focused intensity grips him as he patiently awaits his soon-to-be student. The noblewoman arrives, startling him with her punctuality, but she quickly interrupts. Turning sharply, she demands his assessment, leaving the young man bewildered. The mage presses her, directly questioning her progress in recent training sessions. Silence descends as the mercenary contemplates the best way to respond truthfully. With chilling calm, he suggests surrender can be a remarkably wise decision. The noblewoman freezes, utterly stunned by the mercenary's blunt statement. An irritated glare flashes as she accuses him of expertly provoking her anger. He offers a curt apology if his words struck a nerve. She demands to know how she can overcome her opponent, not why she should surrender. The mage snaps that she didn't seek his counsel to be told to simply accept defeat. The white-haired man absorbs her fury, his expression remaining utterly still. Frustration flares as she orders him to leave, dismissing his words as useless chatter. But he presses her, questioning why accepting a loss feels so impossible. The boy explains that an all-consuming need to win can actually stifle progress. Tears well as she insists that giving up would be a devastating humiliation. The mercenary simply watches, a silent observer to her emotional unraveling. She confesses she routinely belittles her rival, desperately trying to feel superior. The mage tears herself down, branding herself pathetic for succumbing to envy. The noblewoman lays bare her flaws, acknowledging her childish and desperate state. Her body shakes as she unleashes a torrent of long-suppressed frustrations. She admits there's no logical reason to resent Isoline, yet her feelings persist. Sobbing, the young woman asks what's wrong with her, consumed by self-loathing. She confessed her sincerity, even if it exposed her deepest insecurity. Haunted by self-doubt, she desperately asks what it takes to finally achieve victory. He discerns it's more than rivalry. The mage's true animosity isn't directed at her opponent. Tears well in his eyes as he grasps the source of her anger, herself, and no one else. The mercenary recognizes this battle transcends simple jealousy. A more profound struggle is at play. Victory is her only escape from self-loathing, her inferiority, and a lifetime of regret. Closing the distance, he declares with unwavering conviction, they will secure a win. His expression hardening with resolve, the young man vows to deliver her triumph over her foe. Hope flickers in her gaze as the mage acknowledges his promise, a fragile trust forming. A carriage races across a sprawling field, golden wheat blurring in its wake. The horse whinnies, its breath misting, as the vehicle halts before its destination. An unassuming man steps down, announcing their arrival in a calm, measured tone. He's an older gentleman, round glasses framing kind eyes, a neatly trimmed white mustache. He stands before the Belmed estate, the imposing mansion belonging to the young mage's family. A red-haired nobleman emerges, extending a greeting to the traveler returning from Ebelstein. Tristan Belmed motions for the mercenary to be seated, extending a gracious invitation. The nobleman inquires about his daughter's progress, and the man confirms her relentless training. Pride swells in Tristan's voice as he declares his daughter will inevitably eclipse his own skill. He concedes the point, yet hesitates to reveal her tutor comes from a humble background. Abruptly, Tristan announces an impending journey to Ebelstein, catching the man off guard. He intends to visit his daughter himself, bearing a carefully chosen gift as a surprise. Forced agreement escapes the man's lips, though doubt lingers. Will this arrangement succeed? The scene shifts to a twisted labyrinth bordering Ebelstein, bathed in the light of a full moon. Standing near the entrance, a leather-clad man voices his uncertainty about their scheme. The Belden group's leader questions the wisdom of bringing a nobleman to such a dangerous place. The mage recoils at the suggestion, but the young man assures her it's a low-level area. Despite his reassurance, she remains apprehensive, wondering what challenges await within. The mercenary explains the labyrinth will hone her instincts through authentic, brutal combat. Energy crackles around his hand as he warns the magic duel looms in mere days, demanding intense training. The boy insists that with time dwindling, this immersive method offers the quickest path to power. Her eyes widen, fixated on the mercenary, utterly lost for words. Torches blaze as the mercenary band descends into the labyrinth's depths. A frustrated sigh escapes her lips, questioning the darkness and lurking shadows. He warns her to remain vigilant. Even this initial path hides unseen dangers. Fear contorts her features as she glances at him, seeking reassurance. Golden eyes scan the surroundings, a blonde girl tracking any subtle movement. A hushed warning breaks the silence. Goblins are surging from the shadowed passage. The leader's grim voice reveals an ogre lurks behind them, sparking the noble's alarm. She nervously asks if they can defeat it, but he coldly questions the offered reward. The white-haired mercenary cuts through the tension, promising payment will wait. An unsettling chorus of chattering and maniacal laughter echoes through the stone. She freezes, terror gripping her as the reality of monsters descends. A chilling war cry erupts as the goblins charge forward, spears leveled for the kill. With explosive speed, he vaults over the creatures, launching his counterattack. The noble can only watch, her face strained of color, mouth agape in mounting terror. Glowing with azure energy, his blade extends as the young man commands Pellin's protection. He slices through the goblin ranks, effortlessly weaving past their clumsy strikes. The archer draws back her bowstring, an arrow nocked and ready to provide support. The shaft finds its mark. A goblin collapses, pierced cleanly through the skull. Eyes locked on the swarm, the boy channels his power, preparing a magical assault. A single swing cleaves a goblin in two, showcasing a deadly, practiced technique. The mercenary ignites the corridor, unleashing fiery magic upon the advancing horde. Arrows fly true, each shot finding its target, and eliminating a monstrous threat. His sword flashes, another goblin falls, a swift, decisive strike to the head. An arrow strikes home, embedding itself in a goblin's eye, ending its rampage. She watches, transfixed, as the battle unfolds, her breath caught in her throat. A terrified gasp escapes her lips as a monstrous shape looms directly before her. A hulking ogre, eyes burning crimson, erupts from the shadows, dwarfing the group. The leader turns, a mocking grin spreading as he assesses the ogre's monetary value. With a deafening roar of fury, the ogre lunges forward, unleashing its full strength. A colossal club swings, the monster unleashing a devastating strike on the mercenary. The blow lands with brutal force, sending shockwaves through the battlefield around them. A goblin ignites, consumed by searing flames from a perfectly aimed fireball. Another monster collapses, an arrow piercing its neck with deadly, clinical precision. The young mage watches in horror as creatures fall before the mercenary's power. Fear drains the color from her face. She understands now she could share their fate. A scream rips through the labyrinth, the young woman's panic rising to a fever pitch. The boy's voice cuts through her terror, demanding focus and warning of an incoming attack. A goblin lunges for the noblewoman, its rusted dagger glinting with malicious intent. Paralyzed by fear, she believes this is where her story ends, frozen in helpless dread. The young man roars, demanding she fight, to eliminate the threat bearing down on her. The mercenary's voice is harsh, tearing down her fragile facade of helplessness instantly. A memory surfaces, the sting of admitting her own weakness and childish failings. The mage hits the labyrinth floor, the approaching monster a looming, terrifying presence. She wrestles with the agonizing thought, will this feeling of inadequacy ever vanish? The beast descends and a harsh truth dawns, she's lived on borrowed power, achieving nothing herself. She recalls a bitter reality. Her only skill was tearing others down, fueled by relentless envy. Sweat beads on her brow as the young noble freezes, paralyzed by the looming, brutal attack. Then a surge, her hand ignites with brilliant blue mana, a beacon of untapped power. A steely resolve hardens her features as she conjures a magic blade, ready to fight back. Facing the monster, she vows to win this battle and finally forge a stronger self. Her instructor watches intently, a severe expression etching lines onto his stoic face. The mage delivers a precise strike, her mana blade piercing the goblin's chest with swift accuracy. The mercenary leader observes the girl, his eyes widening with genuine astonishment. The young archer stares in disbelief, stunned by the noble's sudden burst of strength. The monster crashes down, defeated, and the girl stands panting, victorious after her first kill. She confronts the weight of her action, breathing heavily, a novel sensation washing over her. But the shock fades, replaced by a resolute glint of determination burning in her eyes. The mage turns toward her teacher, the fallen monsters scattered around them in the gloom. He meets her gaze, his tone unwavering as he declares this is merely the beginning. She insists she's made progress, a small smile playing on her lips. The labyrinth's exit comes into view, signaling the end of their grueling training. Now, the mercenary sits absorbed in a letter addressed directly to him. The writer offers a belated apology for the 2 years of silence between them. She explains her absence, teaching magic to the daughter of a powerful count. Fondly, she recalls their shared walks through the streets of Old Dibblestein. The woman confidently declares him the most gifted mage she's ever encountered. Back at her desk, she idly wonders just how far his power has grown. The teacher closes with a request to witness his magic upon their reunion. The letter concludes with the bold signature of Keisha Flameheart herself. Lost in thought, the mercenary meticulously copies lines from his teacher's letter. The noblewoman approaches, curious as to what's captivated him for 14 days. He offers a simple answer, a letter from the one who taught him everything. A gentle smile touches her lips. The teacher must be extraordinary indeed. He remains utterly still, his gaze fixed on her, betraying no emotion. He concedes, acknowledging her skill and affirming she truly is a gifted teacher. A flush creeps across the noblewoman's face, flustered by his blunt, honest response. The mage quickly dismisses it as a jest, urging the mercenary to disregard her words. Switching gears, he inquires about her preparations for the duel looming just 2 days away. A shadow of uncertainty crosses her face as she admits she's unsure how she feels. Yet, a subtle smile begins to play on her lips as she considers the impending clash. With unwavering confidence, the mage declares with certainty she will claim victory. The duel's day dawns, the magic arena overflowing with expectant nobles eager for the spectacle. Her rival stands amongst them, laughing and chatting with her entourage of wealthy friends. Abruptly, the young woman's carefree expression shifts as a new arrival draws her gaze. The white-haired mercenary moves with quiet purpose, navigating the throng of nobility. "Excuse me," she murmurs, bidding farewell to her companions to approach the approaching figure. A warm smile touches her lips as she calls out to the mercenary by his given name. She expresses her pleasure at seeing him, and he responds with a nod, acknowledging the time past. She casually mentions rumors of his recent assignment, training aplenty in the arcane arts. He confirms their encounter, a brief crossing of paths amidst the bustling crowd. As shared silence descends, two figures locked in a quiet assessment of one another. A soft smile touches her lips as she notes his unchanging nature, then questions his treatment of Alenta. She says that Diala mentioned he wasn't a normal teacher, making the boy serious. He accuses her of unwarranted confidence, of fretting over a looming confrontation. His gaze turns chilling as he delivers a stark warning, never underestimate a rival. Speechless, she stares back, taken aback by the mercenary's abrupt, serious tone. Above, the brilliant blue sky swells, announcing the commencement of the grand tournament. Within the stands, nobles wager on Iceland's victory, unless her opponent wields forbidden magic. One remarks with cruel candor that she pities the girl, so frail, resembling a specter. With elegant strides, a dark-haired woman ascends the stairs toward the arena floor. A thrill ripples through the audience as Lady Iceline, a beacon of nobility, appears. Murmurs of praise follow her every step, celebrating the confident grace she embodies. In a different direction, purposeful footsteps echo, heading directly for the arena's heart. A determined voice whispers to herself, "Victory will be hers, no matter the cost." A summons echoes as a servant announces the instructor's imminent arrival. A letter from a rival arrives, foretelling the severity of the coming winter. The servant gently arranges her hair as the letter extends warm, courteous greetings. Within, the rival flaunts her family's legendary skill in crafting exquisite goods. She details sending gifts to all the other young ladies currently at the court. The letter ends with kind wishes, sealed with Eileen's refined signature. Outside, the mercenary remains composed, absorbed in a well-worn volume. A steely focus takes hold as he patiently awaits his soon-to-be student's arrival. The noblewoman arrives, briefly startling him with her punctuality, then interrupts. She pivots sharply, demanding an assessment, leaving the young man disoriented. The mage presses, directly questioning her progress with recent training regimens. Silence descends as the mercenary carefully considers a truthful response. With unsettling composure, he suggests surrender might be a surprisingly sound idea. The noblewoman freezes, completely taken aback by the mercenary's blunt words. An irritated glare flashes across her face as she accuses him of deliberate provocation. Dozens of fire arrows materialize, poised to unleash a devastating attack. The onslaught of projectiles streaks toward the dark-haired mage in a furious volley. A determined gaze settles on the redhead's face as she anticipates a decisive victory. A flashback reveals the girl, utterly drained, emerging from grueling labyrinth training. "You stand no chance," the boy declares, prompting her desperate plea. "How can I possibly win?" Nursing an injured hand, the mercenary insists that victory hinges on sheer willpower alone. He recalls pushing her relentlessly, demanding every ounce of mana during brutal training sessions. The young man stresses that this confrontation will be won, or lost, on the strength of their will. The master urges her to employ flamboyant displays of magic, prolonging the inevitable clash. He explains that ultimate victory will belong to the mage with even a single drop of mana remaining. Without hesitation, the boy bluntly states that a mana deficit means certain defeat. Yet, he quickly reminds her of the proud Bell-Maid lineage surging through her very veins. Absorbing his words, the young mage steels her resolve with fierce determination. Returning to the present, the mercenary commands her to trust in herself and her latent power. Across the room, her rival reels back, stunned to realize the mage concealed such formidable strength. A lingering request echoes as a servant announces his imminent arrival. A rival's letter arrives, foreshadowing a brutal winter's approach. The servant adjusts her hair as the letter offers warm greetings. Within its lines, the rival flaunts her family's celebrated artistry. She details sending gifts to cultivate favor with the court's young ladies. The letter closes with graceful wishes and eyeline's poised signature. Outside, the mercenary remains still, absorbed in a weathered book's pages. A fierce concentration holds him as he awaits his soon-to-be student. The noblewoman arrives, surprising him with her promptness, then demands answers. Turning sharply, she presses him for an immediate assessment of her progress. The mage pauses, carefully weighing how to deliver a truthful response. With unsettling calm, he suggests surrender might be a remarkably sound choice. The noblewoman freezes, completely taken aback by his blunt declaration. An irritated glare flashes as she accuses him of deliberately provoking her. A messenger announces Isoline's arrival, jolting the redhead into a tense, swift rise. A subtle opportunity presents itself as the dark-haired woman scans the battlefield. She spots the true mage emerging from the dissipating smoke and debris. A confident smile spreads across her face. Now it's time for a full-force assault. With focused intent, she launches a single, piercing ice spear forward. The red-haired mage narrowly avoids it, the attack grazing her side. Yet, to her growing alarm, the ice shatters, embedding itself in her shoulder. Shock freezes her expression as she realizes something isn't what it seems. The noble expertly wielded illusion magic, a costly tactic concealing her true move. The real mage materializes behind her rival, an icy blade poised to strike. The dark-haired woman whirls around, eyes widening in stunned disbelief. Her previous attack was a calculated distraction, paving the way for this ambush. A flashback reveals the teacher's warning. Her offense would be met with resistance. He predicted her opponent would use illusion to close the distance and deceive her. The boy cautioned that this fighter was exceptional, requiring a carefully laid plan. Returning to the present, the mage finds herself confronted by an approaching ice spear. A sudden blast of ice erupts, her rival appearing in a blinding, close-range strike. The young mage calculates she is too close for a defensive ward, forced to react instantly. Her opponent's grip clamps down, seizing her arm mid-cast and halting the spell. Surprise flickers across her face, yet the red-haired girl presses the attack relentlessly. Now, her rival shapes a sphere of glowing mana, preparing a devastating counterblow. A violent surge of blue energy explodes, throwing both combatants backwards with force. The red-haired mage recovers, stabilizing with a swiftly summoned ice spear as support. Her opponent lands gracefully, unwavering, her gaze locked onto the mage with focus. Beads of sweat form as the noblewoman acknowledges this battle exceeds expectations. She meets her rival's determined stare, the dark-haired girl now fully battle-ready. A breath escapes her lips as the dark-haired woman admits how close she came to defeat. A friend's caution echoes in her mind. Never underestimate, never lower your defenses. The lesson finally clicks. She now grasps the mercenary's warning with sobering clarity. The red-haired mage concedes her rival possesses a skill set entirely her own. With newfound resolve, her opponent declares she too will unleash her full potential now. A determined glint sparks in her eyes. She's ready for this confrontation. Jagged shards of ice erupt, rising swiftly from the frozen ground. Dozens of ice lances now hang suspended, poised to strike on command. The onlookers gape, stunned by the sheer volume of conjured weaponry. From the shadows, the mercenary watches, his expression carefully neutral. A subtle smirk plays on his lips. She's finally playing his game. The fiery mage tenses, sensing the escalating power of her foe. The girl declares she recognizes the noble's growth, offering no quarter. In a blur of motion, she unleashes a searing bolt of crimson flame. A radiant orb of fire blossoms, hanging above the gathering ice storm. The noble challenges her opponent to withstand the impending onslaught. Unflinching, the red-haired mage stares down the attack, undeterred. Power crackles around her hand as she channels her next technique. A single arrow of fire streaks upward, aimed at the burning sphere. The noblewoman reels, caught off guard by the mercenary's swift retort. Her eyes widen, disbelief washing over the girl's face. The fire arrow streaks upward, piercing the fragile, floating ice. She struggles to grasp how the attack launched without a visible mana signature. Then, realization dawns. The glowing sphere concealed a volley of arrows. The young woman recognizes a carefully hidden attack, timed for just this moment. Instantly, the fire arrows descend, one impacting the ground alarmingly close. A confident smile plays on the red-haired mage's lips as she gestures toward her foe. The noble concedes she can't anticipate her opponent's actions any longer. In the stands, the white-haired girl offers praise, impressed by the mage's skill. The red-haired mage thinks she has the upper hand in this escalating duel. Iceland now understands victory is impossible under these relentless conditions. She admits aplenty is exceeding her in both strategy and sheer audacity. Yet she refuses to yield, determined to find a way to reverse the tide. And so, the young woman resolves to overhaul her approach from the ground up. From the shadows, the white-haired boy observes the battle with fierce intensity. He declares the true test has arrived. The real fight is now underway. Suddenly, the pendant at Aislin's neck flares with an intense, cerulean glow. Immense mana surges around her, lifting her body effortlessly into the air. Witnessing this, the red-haired mage is visibly stunned, unable to decipher her rival's move. A violent surge of energy erupts from Iceland, sending the mage reeling backward. The mage questions the nature of this power, detecting no preceding mana flow at all. Abruptly, she senses something deeply unsettling about the mana surrounding her. In a flash, the red-haired mage realizes she's lost all connection to the ambient mana. The mercenary explains a momentary lapse. All mana in the area vanished completely. He identifies this as manalignment, a total reorganization of magical energy. It occurs when a mage pushes past their boundaries, unleashing impossible power. Consequently, the mana of the surrounding area mirrors this overwhelming surge. The location's mana undergoes this alignment, desperately compensating for the extreme output. Simply put, young Iceland shattered her limits in that single, breathtaking moment. Power blazing, Iceland now confronts her opponent with unwavering, steely confidence. A crimson fireball explodes overhead, dwarfing the exhausted mage below. The raid leader lies battered and bruised, the cost of relentless training evident. A concerned friend rushes forward, offering a water skin, met with grateful thanks. Clutching the bottle, she voices a doubt that weighs heavily on her mind. Can she truly overcome Iceland's forces with only weeks left to prepare? He answers with unwavering certainty, assuring her victory is within reach. Correcting himself, he clarifies she will emerge triumphant from the conflict. Back in the present, onlookers gasp as the sheer force of the attack unfolds. The colossal fireball intensifies, a blazing threat descending from above. Desperation flares as she cries out, accusing him of withholding crucial warnings. She pleads for guidance, demanding to know how she can possibly defend herself. But the mercenary remains a stoic figure, his silence amplifying her fear. Frustration boils over as she demands he break his composure and say something. With defiant resolve, the young woman pivots, bracing herself for the onslaught. The massive inferno plummets toward the arena, a terrifying rush of heat and light. A desperate plan forms as she frantically searches for a way to counter the spell. An ice spear flickers in her mind, quickly dismissed as utterly ineffective. Her rival extends a hand, radiating confidence as the duel reaches its climax. She concedes defeat, believing victory against this mage is simply unattainable. The watching students gasp, hands flying to their mouths in sheer terror. The fireball hurtles toward the mage, sending her reeling backward from the blast. But the dark-haired girl notices an anomaly, a strange twist unfolding before her. Then, a colossal explosion rips through the arena, shaking the very foundations. The red-haired mage is hurled violently away, bracing herself with outstretched arms. The sheer force of the blast sends her crashing back against the arena's floor. Gasping for air, the noblewoman feels the drain of her reckless mana expenditure. Yet, to her astonishment, the red-haired mage lands gracefully on her feet. Iceland stares in disbelief, questioning how her opponent evaded the attack. Suddenly, she realizes Elin mirrored her own technique to avoid the blast. A defeated sigh escapes her lips. A level 2 spell truly demands everything. A lingering tremor runs through her hand, the cost of unleashing such raw power. Fatigue weighs heavily, yet she tightens her fist, refusing to yield an inch. The boy explains Iceland acknowledges her foe's strength, and now fights with purpose. It's a display of respect, a recognition of the challenge before her, a vital sign. The red-haired mage mirrors that intensity, her gaze locked on her determined rival. Alan senses her friend's unfolding strategy, urging her to endure the coming storm. Iceland's expression hardens, preparing a new, devastating fireball for the attack. She cries out her intent to claim victory, unleashing the spell with ferocious power. Gritting her teeth, the girl wrestles for control, channeling all her focus within. Then, the searing fireball streaks forward, aimed directly at her opponent's form. Another explosive burst of energy silences the crowd, silencing their cheers. But this time, The attack arrives with blinding speed and overwhelming force. Defying instinct, the red-haired mage charges into the oncoming inferno. Her opponent feels the heat radiating off the spell, clutching her arm in tense anticipation. The fireball hurtles forward, rapidly closing the distance to the charging mage. She vaults over the blast with impossible grace, narrowly avoiding the flames. A swift backflip grants her the perfect angle to begin weaving a counterspell. Her form flares with radiant energy, a striking silhouette against the burning light. Iceland shields her eyes, caught completely off guard by the sudden, blinding surge. Suspended in midair, the young mage channels power for a devastating strike. Clutching an energy spear, she declares her opponent can't anticipate her next move. She forms the weapon and insists her rival will only exhaust their dwindling mana. With a focused breath, the red-haired mage unleashes the spear towards her foe. Below, the dark-haired woman braces for the full force of the incoming attack. Iceland swiftly erects a massive ice barrier, desperately seeking protection. But her rival instantly knows it wasn't a defensive spell, mana completely depleted. The red-haired mage lands gracefully behind the shattered remnants of the ice. Sweat beads on her brow as the noblewoman gasps, utterly winded and strained. From the shadows, the mercenary observes, calmly predicting the fight's swift end. A confident smile touches Aylin's lips. She believes her rival is trapped and powerless. She's certain her remaining mana is enough to secure a swift victory. But a searing fireball erupts unexpectedly from the shattered ice fragments. Shock ripples across the young mage's face as she witnesses the impossible. The fiery projectile streaks towards her. Iceland collapses, defeated and broken. The dark-haired woman crashes into the arena floor, utterly drained of power. With practiced ease, the red-haired mage sends a small fireball skyward. She now confronts her fallen opponent, her expression grim and resolute. The noble lies broken before her ruined ice barrier, completely overwhelmed. Despite her exhaustion, she wills her body to fight, one final time. Gathering the last vestiges of her mana, the girl focuses her waning power. Her opponent observes in stunned silence, a look of disbelief crossing her face. A fierce determination burns within her eyes. She refuses to surrender now. A memory flashes. She once believed no noble shone brighter than her rival, but she understands that every brilliant light is inevitably shadowed by darkness. A chilling resolve hardens her gaze as the girl recalls her painful past. A burning resentment fueled her, born from years spent in the shadows. She recalls a childhood where the noble possessed every advantage, indulged without limit. A chilling question escapes her lips. Does her rival truly expect kindness forever? Head bowed, the girl endures the stinging words, refusing to offer a response. The mage baits her opponent, seeking a crack in the noble's composed facade. Frustration flares as the noble simply returns a calm, disarming smile. Alenta perceives her rival as a gem, gleaming brighter with every challenge faced. This relentless comparison binds her, shackling her spirit in suffocating darkness. The noble's brilliance intensifies, eclipsing her own efforts at every turn. She drowns in a vortex of envy, a crushing weight of perceived inadequacy. A hopeless despair threatens to consume her, dragging her into a bottomless void. Yet, driven by ambition, she relentlessly honed her skills in secret, growing strong. The young mage vows to break free, to finally eclipse the noble's dazzling light. She will claim her rightful place, proving her power to all who doubt her worth. Now, standing over her defeated foe, she believes she's finally clawed her way out. A surprising acknowledgement escapes her. The noble is beautiful, even now. Mud-splattered and disheveled, her opponent still carries an undeniable grace. She questions how anyone maintains composure after such a brutal exchange. The young noble clearly dismisses the value of a flawless reputation. Her rival remains authentic, giving her all in every single moment. The crowd roars, desperately urging the fallen Iceland to rise and battle on. Gathering her strength, the mage conjures a final, focused flame in her palm. Her gaze finds a familiar face, recalling her earlier doubts about victory. He meets her eyes, a silent reassurance that she's about to overcome this. A disorienting vision floods her mind, an endless abyss of dark, churning water. She braces for the inevitable, knowing even victory won't fully silence the shadows. The mage fears she's destined to return to the darkness from which she came. But on the ground, Iceland fiercely channels her last reserves into a final surge. A frustrated groan. Her mana is depleted, the spell a catastrophic failure. Her opponent confesses her own exhaustion, utterly drained of magical power. A flicker of surprise crosses the noble's face at the mage's bold statement. Alenta commends her opponent, admitting defeat after a grueling battle. The mage concedes, acknowledging an unforgettable and fiercely contested fight. The crowd erupts, roaring its approval for the victorious young Iceland. Yet the red-haired mage receives the praise with a knowing, subtle smile. Her opponent stares back, bewildered and lost, struggling to comprehend. Time passes as both girls gather themselves, recovering from the clash. Congratulations flow toward Iceland, acknowledging her astounding triumph. Then, the dark-haired woman's gaze falls upon a figure in the distance. Her rival departs the battlefield, walking away in quiet solitude. Lost in a book, the white-haired boy looks up as the mage draws near. He asks if she witnessed everything, then declares he's seen enough. A playful smile touches her lips as she wonders if he's truly shocked. The young man presses for details, curious about her opponent's reaction. She recalls a jaw-dropped expression and a surrender in her rival's eyes. Losing mattered little. The advantage is all she needed to turn the tide. She challenges him, questioning if he doubted her capacity to adapt. A single tear traces a path down her cheek, a surprising, unwelcome sting. Confused and shaken, she wonders at the source of this sudden outpouring. His white hair frames a gaze both serious and filled with quiet understanding. Unable to stem the flow, a torrent of tears now escapes her control. She collapses to the ground, fiercely declaring she's no longer a crying child. Her friend offers comfort, insisting there's no need for self-reproach now. He watches in silence as sobs rack her body, curled in on herself. Between ragged breaths, she admits the burning desire to claim victory. But a chilling realization dawns. Even winning wouldn't change her constraints. In her mind's eye, she relives the sensation of falling into endless darkness. The mage confesses that succumbing to despair has always been her weakness. He observes her, allowing her vulnerability to spill into the quiet air. Even now, she acknowledges, her opponent moved with effortless elegance. A chilling realization dawns. Perhaps she isn't so unlike her companion. He wonders aloud if a little self-pity is truly a weakness between them. Tears well in her eyes as she turns to him, her expression utterly stunned. He insists true growth demands the courage to embrace vulnerability, to fall. The mercenary offers quiet comfort as his friend remains lost in her sorrow. Her thoughts drift back to the abyss, the prison that once held her captive. But now, a sense of grounding washes over her, solid earth beneath her feet. She watches her rival's retreating form fade into the distant horizon. She acknowledges, despite everything, she's no longer facing a hopeless future. From afar, the white-haired girl observes their quiet exchange, assessing them. With the duel concluded, the girls bid farewell to Iceland, grateful for the clash. One remarks on the noble's dramatic flair, confessing she felt a genuine thrill. She turns to her friend, curious if she sensed something more beneath the surface. Iceland confesses, her expression grim, that she wasn't the one who truly won. Her friend offers a knowing smile, a silent agreement passing between them. A chilling silence descends as the dark-haired woman studies her opponent. Iceland's companion concedes her friend's magic far exceeds her own skill, but the noblewoman protests, claiming her rival has eclipsed her completely. She acknowledges the astonishing speed of her opponent's rapid improvement. Distant and watchful, a white-haired boy absorbs every detail of the scene. A firm resolve hardens her gaze. The young noble has reached a decision. She summons her maid, demanding immediate attention and swift obedience. The noblewoman requests a vital letter be sent directly to her estate. With purposeful intent, she declares she requires the mercenary's aid. Within a lavish estate, a man reads a missive with a grim expression. He questions the necessity of dispatching a 6th-level mage to Ebelstein. His advisor explains the tariff negotiations have been unexpectedly accelerated. He quickly reasons the Marquis's arrival must be connected to this matter. A master of tracking magic, the man seeks legitimate justification for travel. His son enters, presenting a letter penned by his sister, Iceland herself. She sought a tutor, a master of arcane arts for herself, but her request named only him, rival's instructor, specifically. He considered a forceful demand, dispatched through a butler. Yet his son insists on handling this matter with finesse. He'll journey to Ibelstein regardless, resolving this personally. Evening descends on the mage's home, painting the sky with color. The young mage declares a pause in training, a needed respite. The mercenary's gaze remains fixed, awaiting her full explanation. She needs time to gather her thoughts, to clarify her purpose. Then, she questions her continued contract with the Belden group. A sudden, playful step, she grinds his foot, baffling the boy. A knowing smile touches her lips, a plan beginning to form. She asks if he'll return, should she summon him for lessons. He studies her quietly, assessing her intentions before speaking. He agrees, but doubts remain. What wisdom can he still impart? He deflects the praise with a wry smile, refusing to accept false modesty. A wistful exhale escapes her lips. Winter's grip is finally loosening. Darkness descends, and the boy seeks refuge in the bustling tavern. He pushes open the door, entering with a composure that belies his thoughts. A flash of blonde hair, a startled girl registers his sudden return. She cries out his name, rushing forward with unrestrained delight. A gentle smile touches his lips as he confirms he has returned at last. Dust plumes erupt as a carriage races relentlessly toward the horizon. Sunlight glints off polished wood as the carriage nears its distant goal. Within the swaying cabin, a crimson-haired man scans the passing fields. Restlessness consumes him. He aches to reach the journey's concluding point. Under the cloak of night, the mage finds solace in her spacious bed. A grumble escapes her, a hard-won respite. She refuses further training. Her loyal maid offers a soft apology, requesting leave on urgent business. She throws back the covers, muttering that she demanded a false alibi. A drowsy haze clings to her as she wonders who dares disturb the hour. Abruptly, a man appears, greeting her with a claim of long-forgotten days. He stands framed in the doorway, accompanied by his ever-attentive maid. Shock ripples through the mage. Why has her father come here now? A forced smile touches her lips as she bids him wait just a moment. But the man brushes past her request, entering with "precious jewel" on his lips. Dawn breaks, and the mage shares breakfast with her subtly assessing father. He notes a Duplain lady wouldn't fall easily, a formidable opponent indeed. She concedes the point, admitting the battle revealed valuable lessons learned. A knowing smile plays on his lips, suggesting they keep the man close. Yet the mage's gaze hardens, a flicker of worry clouding her expression. She anticipates objections, but he simply dismisses her concerns with a laugh. Relief washes over the young mage, soothed by her father's confident words. Miles away, the mercenary and his companion descend into a ruined dungeon. An unnerving energy pulses from the depths, a darkness brimming with threat. A frantic cry pierces the air. A monster stalks her companion's back. He doesn't flinch, already bracing for the creature closing in. Crimson energy crackles in his palm, power surging for the coming fight. Eyes ablaze, he recognizes a disturbing energy radiating from the depths. A searing blast of fire erupts, hurtling toward the monstrous goblin. Third-level magic incinerates the creature in a blinding, swift end. Firewall, he states calmly, naming the devastating spell he wields. The dungeon trembles as the explosion obliterates the remaining foe. A desperate yell tears from her lips, her friend's name a plea. Startled birds scatter, fleeing the echoing boom of the fiery blast. As dust descends, smoke curls from the dungeon's shadowed mouth. Back at the tavern, she recounts the battle, his near-fatal gamble. Annoyance flares. Mages, she grumbles, consistently court disaster. He explains a jarring dissonance struck him mid-battle, a strange shift. You won't find limits by simply crashing into them, he assures. His master preached embracing the current, letting power take hold. He recalls those words, a reminder not to push against the tide. A hooded figure scoffs. Such wisdom holds no sway for those who wield magic. The mercenary confronts him, sensing no magical presence within the man. Introducing himself as Drast, he requests a drink to soothe weary bones. Under a full moon, the city glitters, a canvas of distant stars. A blonde warrior trains, alone within a desolate courtyard's walls. She focuses her will, summoning the raw energy that fuels her spells. Eyes locked in concentration, the girl prepares for another arcane trial. A blue energy arrow flares to life, launched with focused, cutting grace. Grit teeth betray her struggle, as magic threatens to overwhelm control. Two more shimmering arrows form, poised to strike at her command. Strain etched on her face, she fights to stabilize the volatile energies. One arrow detonates close by, sending her crashing down with brutal force. A frustrated yell escapes her lips. This endless cycle fuels her rage. A playful jab cuts through the silence. She's matured, yet remains defiant. He commends her 5-arrow volley, genuinely curious about her instruction. She bristles, claiming sole credit, dismissing her friend's assistance entirely. Then comes the offer. Iceland seeks him as a tutor, a surprising request. He adds that her rival also extended an invitation, vying for his time. Annoyance flares. Why does this man attract attention wherever he goes? He chuckles, claiming credit for refining a troublesome spirit into something more. He proposes Iceland would be the wiser choice, hinting at future encounters. The boy suggests that path might allow her another glimpse of him someday. A flush rises on her cheeks as she vehemently denies any longing for him. He notes the whispers about the mercenary's skill are rapidly gaining traction. Elsewhere, the white-haired girl quietly hopes for a lull in new challengers. Back within the tavern's walls, the mercenary and mage share a private moment. The older man drains his mug, observed in thoughtful silence by the boy. A question forms in his mind. What brings a mage of such power to this place? A haunting question escapes her lips. Is she truly different now? He muses if self-pity is a weakness they both share, a shared flaw. Tears spill over, and she turns to him, utterly lost in disbelief. He urges her that true strength lies in embracing the fall, the pain. The mercenary offers a quiet solace as grief consumes his companion. Her mind replays the abyss, the prison she once knew so intimately. But now, solid ground anchors her, a welcome relief to her soul. She watches her rival shrink into the distance, a fading silhouette. Despite everything, she concedes she isn't facing a future without hope. Observing from afar, the white-haired girl studies their fragile peace. The duel now over, the girls leave Iceland, thankful for the brutal test. One comments on the noble's bravado, admitting a thrill ran through her. She glances at her friend, wondering what else she might have sensed. Iceland confesses, her voice strained, she wasn't the true victor here. A knowing smile passes between them, a silent understanding shared. But a shadowed past resurfaces, twisting into a grim present. He returns to a silent home, discovering a devastating, brutal loss. The mage stands frozen, utterly broken by the carnage before him. Meanwhile, Callous nobles debate whether the mage has found peace. They sneer at the common-born mages, fueled by arrogance and scorn. One vows to silence the maidservant should she ever cross their path. A cruel determination hardens his features, promising swift retribution. Then, a figure emerges from the darkness, attacking with lethal intent. The hooded assailant reveals a familiar face, striking with swift force. A single, focused strike sends the noble sprawling, crushed by the blow. Steel flashes. The mage's blade finds its mark, severing flesh and bone. The noble collapses, pleading for mercy, his eyes wide with terror. He scrabbles on the stone, begging forgiveness as judgment descends. Desperate pleas fall on deaf ears, met only with a chilling, cold stare. With ruthless efficiency, the mage delivers a final, fatal strike. 30 years vanished as Dreist fled the Empire and its relentless noble houses. But reaching 6th level mage status drew the Empire's unwanted attention. Recognizing the danger, they offered a title, a gilded cage for his power. Dreist became a noble not through birthright, but sheer magical dominance. The mercenary finds no grounds to reject this unexpected proposition. A firm resolve settles over him as he accepts the mage's generous offer. Within a lavish conference room, 3 powerful nobles convene. Their discussion centers on the peninsula's expansion and the risks it holds. One confidently volunteers his personal knightly order for the endeavor. A dismissive sneer crosses the face of another. Are mercenaries implied? Cold contempt radiates from the white-haired man's piercing gaze. He suggests managing lands with a private army presents unique challenges. The taunt strikes a nerve, igniting a furious glare in the noble's eyes. Seeking to defuse the tension, a third noble proposes a familial visit. He casually mentions rumors of his daughter's skill, rivaling even Iceland. He offers a gentle smile, claiming his daughter has finally come into her own. He insists that with proper guidance, she'll quickly overtake Iceland's strength. The other noble interjects, focusing on Derrick and a scheme he's devised. He argues that making the boy Iceland's instructor will stifle Aelin's growth. The mage's father bristles, his glare radiating fury and deep resentment. He's adamant that the boy's connection with his daughter will never solidify. The noble wonders aloud just who this Derrick is, to warrant such attention. Within her chamber, the white-haired girl resolves to uncover everything about him. The mage's father strides into the tavern, seeking an audience with the commander. A welcoming smile greets him, the commander offering hospitality and ease. Yet, the man's composure falters, unease creeping into his expression. The noble bluntly asks if he commands the infamous mercenary band. A steaming mug is placed upon the table, setting the stage for their talk. He explains his personal visit, revealing his letters went unanswered entirely. The commander offers his sincere apology, admitting Derrick vanished days ago. He reveals the boy rejected every offer, vanishing completely from sight. The noble speculates his competition may have already claimed him as a protege. He resolves to locate the boy himself, refusing to be outdone. Within her estate, the white-haired girl savors an apple and scans a letter. Lost in her reading, she seems utterly content with her simple pleasure. The young woman questions her maid about the patriarch's letter's arrival. It demanded she find Derrick and secure him as her instructor immediately. With a frustrated sigh, she gripes this task feels tedious and unwelcome. She mourns that such a cherished day has been completely interrupted. Removing her glasses, she declares this was the day she'd eagerly awaited. Her favorite author's highly anticipated new novel was finally available. A curious smile touches her lips as she wonders about the ice sword's meaning. She decides obedience is necessary, to avoid a scolding later on. The young woman summons her maid, preparing to depart her mansion. A resolute expression solidifies as she announces her search, then exits.